Democrats vow daily war votes. AIPAC's Jared Golden sinks. My op-ed today is titled, Dear MTG, you could help fix this if you're willing. And it's addressed to Marjorie Taylor Greene. And, you know, in a way it is, and in a way it isn't. I mean, you know, it's, I would love to have her on the program. We've reached out to her. I asked Congressman Khanna if he would reach out to her and invite her on the program. Because, you know, we used to have Republicans on this program all the time. We have Republican callers. I generally treat them respectfully. I'm more than happy to debate, you know, or have a reasonable conversation. But so anyhow, I wrote to her saying, you know, our mutual friend Khanna reached out to you a few months ago about dropping by my radio TV program, and because she's one of the few high-profile Republicans who has not only said that she doesn't agree with Trump's policies. You've got a whole bunch of Republicans who are willing to kind of cherry pick policy. Well, I don't know about the war, I don't. But she's actually said he's nuts, and he's he needs to go. So I'm saying, hey, well, this is good. You know, we agree on this. Maybe we can agree on other things. Like health care, for example. In America, we spend about $15,000 a person for health care. The average for the developed world, the OECD countries, the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, is the 32, 36, whatever it is, richest countries in the world. Their average is $5,967 per person, about $6,000 per person. We're paying about $15,000 per person. Where's all that extra money going? It's going into the pockets of the billionaires who own the insurance companies and the billionaires who own the big hospital chains and the hedge funds. You know, Rick Scott, the senator from Florida, oversaw the biggest Medicare fraud in the history of America when he was running a big hospital chain down in Florida. Dollar Bill McGuire, the guy who started United Healthcare, walked away with $1.7 billion. He had to give back a couple $100 million to avoid being prosecuted for fraud because they said he was backdating his stock options. So I said to Marjorie, as a conservative, I'd guess you'd be outraged by the billions of our healthcare dollars that are being shoveled into the money bins of the insurance and hospital giants. And maybe she would be. Oh, and I mentioned the Medicare Advantage scam. It's costing Americans billions of dollars a year. It's costing our government money. It's costing us money. It provides poorer service because it's for-profit healthcare. If we just did, as I point out to Marjorie, if we just did what every other developed country in the world has done, you know, institute a national health care system, we'd preserve a fortune and we'd save an estimated 68,000 lives and $500 billion a year. And the service would be better. So that's health care. What about education? America is the only country in the developed world where a person goes deeply into debt just to get an education. You know, with an advanced degree, you could be in debt for decades. I mean, even with a bachelor's degree, you can be in debt for decades, depending on where you go to school. We know how stupid this is as a country. I mean, we've done this experiment. After World War II, we got the GI Bill, which Dwight Eisenhower and Vice President Richard Nixon enthusiastically pushed. That was when my dad went to college on the GI Bill. It was when my dad bought a house on the VA housing thing. But the GI Bill, you not only got free tuition, you were paid a stipend. In other words, you were paid to go to college. And the return on that investment, that government investment, was substantial, as Edward Humes writes in his book Over Here, How the GI Bill Transformed the American Dream. Quote, that groundbreaking legislation gave our nation 14 Nobel Prize winners, 3 Supreme Court justices, 3 presidents, 12 senators, 24 Pulitzer Prize winners, 238,000 teachers, 91,000 scientists, 67,000 doctors, 450,000 engineers, 240,000 accountants, 17,000 journalists, 22,000 dentists, and millions of lawyers, nurses, artists, actors, writers, pilots, and entrepreneurs. It's true. And then when you do the math, in 1952 dollars, just to keep it all the same, the GI Bill cost us $7 billion. If you look at the consequence of that investment, over the next 40 years, the increased domestic output and the additional taxes that were paid, because educated people make more money, so they pay more in taxes. What we found was that the increased economic output was $35.5 billion, and the increased taxes was $12.8 billion. So that's, that's a total of $48 billion that we got back from our $7 billion investment. That's a 7-to-1 return on your investment. So, and this is why every other developed country in the world gives their students free college, and about half of them actually pay you to go to college. And then there's taxes. When Reagan came into office in 1991, 2/3 of Americans were in the middle class and could get there and stay there with a single paycheck. Today, only 43% of us are in the middle class. It takes 2 paychecks. So what happened? Well, when Reagan came into office, the top tax on the morbidly rich was 74%. It had recently been reduced from 90% by LBJ, by the way. So 74%, and the top tax on corporations was 50%. And what that did is it encouraged wealthy people, number one, to support charities, and because it's tax deductible. And number two, once they had hit about $3 million a year in income in today's dollars, it was much lower back then, it was a couple $100,000, but once they hit about $3 million in income, they stopped taking a paycheck and left the money in the company and used it to pay their workers better and develop new products and all that kind of stuff. CEOs and senior managers often lived in the same neighborhoods as their workers. They might have had a spiffier house, but they, and you see this in the old sitcoms from the 50s, the old Dick Van Dyke Show kind of stuff. But instead, today, because billionaires don't pay taxes anymore, and Reagan legalized stock buybacks, corporations aren't, developing new products. You get the bottom line. This is just all this. And if you add up all of the tax breaks from the Reagan tax cuts, the Bush tax cuts, and the Trump tax cuts, it equals more than $38 trillion. In other words, we borrowed, 3 Republican presidents borrowed more than $38 trillion and gave it to billionaires so that, these guys could shoot themselves up into outer space on penis-shaped rockets and build new giant machines. So anyhow, I just pointed that out, and I said, we could also discuss, public transportation, cleaning up our air and water, protecting our public lands from greedy fossil fuel billionaires, passing Republican James Lankford's immigration legislation, getting off our addiction to fossil fuels, and even the small government idea of letting queer people and non-Christians simply live their lives in peace and quiet. So, Marjorie, if you're watching or listening, we'd love to have you on the program. You and I can just talk, or I'll give you an hour and you can take calls from listeners. I'd honestly love to have a conversation with Marjorie Taylor Greene, wouldn't you? Yeah, yes, we can disagree on a lot of things. I suspect we can also agree on a few things. Starting with, we all love America. Democrats vow daily war votes. AIPAC's Jared Golden sinks a war resolution. Minnesota charges an ICE thug. Hormuz threatens food collapse. Trump snubs RFK Jr. And dementia, or just morbidly rich? Good morning. This is the Commonwealth Report, news for the public, not the powerful. You can sign up for morning and evening news at commonwealthreport.news. It's free. Will Republicans face daily war votes as polls collapse? House Democrats are done playing nice on Donald Trump's illegal war with Iran. They're rolling out an aggressive new strategy. Introduce a war powers resolution every single day the House is in session until one passes or Trump ends this reckless war. The plan came out of the Progressive Caucus lunch Thursday and got traction even with centrist Democrats. And here's why. A CBS poll shows 60% of Americans disapprove of this war. 64% disapprove of how Trump is handling it. Gas is pushing $5 a gallon in Nevada. Republicans are sticking with Trump for now, but with the 2026 midterms looming, that wall could crack. Congress has a constitutional duty to rein in a reckless president. That's the whole point. AIPAC Democrat sinks war powers resolution by a single vote. And here's the outrage. The House War Powers resolution to end Trump's Iran war failed Thursday by one vote, 213 to 214. Every Democrat voted to end the war except one, Jared Golden of Maine. The same Jared Golden who has pocketed over $817,000 from AIPAC during his career. He sided with Republicans to let Trump's war grind on. And this happened the very same day Democrats were vowing to force a vote on this very single day the House is in session. Golden claimed the resolution would, quote, weaken our hand. Yeah, what it would do is bring our troops home. One AIPAC Democrat stood between Congress and a constitutional check on presidential war powers. That's what bought-off politicians look like. Will ICE finally face real accountability? Something historic just happened in Minnesota. A Hennepin County prosecutor criminally charged an on-duty ICE agent with 2 counts of second-degree assault. Gregory Donald Morgan Jr. allegedly pulled a gun on 2 civilians in broad daylight during a road rage incident on Highway 62 back in February. County Attorney Mary Moriarty filed the charges Thursday. A nationwide warrant is out for his arrest. This is the first state criminal prosecution of a federal immigration agent since Trump's Operation Metro Surge began. ICE shot 3 people dead in Minneapolis. 0 charges. Well, until now, and not for the deaths. Moriarty said worrying about federal blowback is not a concern of ours. Her job is to enforce state law. When an administration acts like it's above the law, one county attorney with a spine can change everything. Is our global food system teetering on collapse? Trump's Iran war didn't just spike your gas prices. It's threatening to crash the global food supply. The Strait of Hormuz carries roughly 1/3 of the world's seaborne fertilizer trade. Since the February 28 bombing, tanker traffic through that strait has collapsed by more than 90%. Fertilizer prices have jumped 20 to 40%. The World Food Program warns up to 45 million people could face life-threatening hunger. The UN's Food and Agriculture Organization says we have a 3-month window before planting decisions get locked in for the whole season. Bangladesh, Egypt, Kenya, Sri Lanka, all of them staring down a food emergency. Here at home, American corn farmers are switching to soybeans because they can't afford the fertilizer that corn requires. Your grocery bill is about to get a whole lot uglier. That's what reckless war does. Trump thumbs his nose at Bob Kennedy with his CDC pick. Donald Trump threw his own health secretary under the bus Thursday. He nominated Dr. Erica Schwartz to run the CDC, a former deputy surgeon general described by your ex-boss as, quote, really wicked smart and not subject to rumor and conspiracy theories, end quote. Translation, unlike Bob Kennedy, Schwartz would be the 4th person tapped to run the CDC during Trump's 2nd term. Kennedy fired the last confirmed director, Susan Manaras, after she refused to play along with his anti-vax agenda. A federal judge last month ruled Kennedy's vaccine schedule changes were, quote, arbitrary and capricious. Measles is surging. Americans are dying of preventable diseases. And Trump, finally, for once, seems to be quietly admitting that his own health secretary is a walking public health disaster. Has Trump got dementia, or is he just morbidly rich? And finally, this. At a Las Vegas tax event Thursday, Donald Trump stopped mid-speech to ask what a corner store is. Quote, what is a corner store? I never heard that term. Who the hell wrote that? Let that sink in. The President of the United States has never heard of a corner store. He then said poor people, quote, don't think in terms of deductions because, well, they don't have any. Meanwhile, gas is over $4 a gallon, pushing $5 in Nevada, and he called the Iran war a little diversion. So the question today, is Trump suffering from dementia, or is he just so morbidly rich that he's completely disconnected from the way ordinary Americans live? Never been in a store. He's always had a maid shopping for him. Either way, he's steering the country And that should terrify all of us. And that's the way it is today, Friday, April 17th, 2026. I'm Thom Hartmann.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
Hey, top of the Friday to you. TGIF, Shabbat Shalom, Juma Mubarak, whatever it may be for you. It's the beginning of the weekend for us, and anything goes Friday. However, in just a few moments, Congressman Khanna will join us for the first hour of our program, the full hour for a progressive national town hall meeting, taking your calls for the hour. So if you'd like to get in line, lines are open at 202-808-9925. In the second hour of our program, I want to get into this thing about term limits, how they not only will they not drain the swamp, they'll flood it. It basically strips lawmakers of experienced hands and puts power in the hands of lobbyists and billionaires. Andy Bashir called for term limits on our program last week. I kind of pushed back, but I heard yesterday several people on MSNBC, it's like there's this effort now to push for term limits. So one of their hosts and one of their guests was pushing it. And I've heard it now 3 times in the last 24 hours on MSNBC and CNN. So I want to get into that in the second hour of the program. Also, will Republicans face daily war votes as the polls collapse? And an AIPAC Democrat, Jared Golden, has sunk the War Powers resolution by a single vote. We'll ask Congressman Khanna, what their plans are with regard to that. In the third hour of our program today, will ICE finally face real accountability? A Minnesota county prosecutor says yes. This is an amazing story. And also, Dr. Bandy Lee will be with us in the third hour. This new, it's just been approved to be read on the floor of the Senate by the Medical Association. Medical concerns about President Donald J. Trump and his fitness for office. Dr. Lee, of course, a world-famous psychiatrist, will be our guest in the third hour of the program. But to start out, Congressman Khanna is with us. He represents the 17th District of California. He's the vice chair of the Congressional Progressive Caucus, ranking member of the House Armed Services Committee on Cyber Innovative Technologies and Information Systems, member of the House Committee on Oversight and Accountability, which has been looking into the whole Epstein mess. Khanna, KHANNA.house.gov is his website, and his Blue Sky handle is Rep. Khanna. Congressman, welcome back to the program.
Thanks for having me back. Always enjoy doing this.
It is always such an honor and a pleasure to have you with us. And you have been out there taking names and kicking ass. I see you everywhere, and I'm so impressed with the great work that you're doing. Particularly, the stuff on the Epstein, high profile, but now speaking out on this war that Donald Trump has declared against Iran. Mike Johnson this morning said that Pope Leo XIV doesn't understand, quote, something called the just war doctrine. Apparently, Speaker Johnson doesn't know that the Pope was the head of the Augustine order for 12 years. And it was Augustine who invented the just war doctrine, which is that you can't have a war unless you've been attacked. You have some thoughts on this.
Well, I didn't think the speaker would have the audacity to be lecturing the Pope about Christian theology. But the reality is this is a immoral and illegal war. It is immoral because Donald Trump is literally threatening to wipe off Iranian civilization. It is immoral because the strikes have killed schoolgirls without the proper safeguards that we should have been taking. It is immoral because it was avoidable. Just war theory, as I remember it, and I'm not an expert, but requires you to exhaust all avenues for peace and diplomacy before you fight. And in this case, this was not a necessary war. We could have had peace negotiations with Iran, as Obama did, to have them give up their enriched uranium and saved American lives as well as Iranian lives. And so this has been a disaster. It's put our troops at risk. It's increased gas prices. You actually have a more hardline regime in Iran with the IRGC having more control, Khamenei Jr. actually wanting to develop nuclear weapons, which his father did. His father, who was 86, is now a martyr. China has more influence in the region. The Strait of Hormuz, Iran has more control. So it's not just illegal and immoral, it's also a strategic blunder.
Yeah, to say the very least. Is there, before we start picking up calls here, is there anything on your mind that you wanted to get into or share with our folks this morning or update us?
Well, Tom, last night, I think I've gotten enough sleep, but at midnight they called us in. They wanted to vote to authorize FISA for 5 years. So I put out a little bit of a video that has gone viral saying they're calling us in while America sleeps to authorize FISA for 5 more years, which would allow Donald Trump basically to surveil on American data, surveil Americans, our fellow citizens, without a warrant. I mean, basically how FISA works is you catch all this data of everything going on around the world, and then you're allowed to type in Americans' names into this database and find out if they've ever sent an email overseas or called overseas and in any way caught up in this database. You can get their information, their private information, without a warrant. And they were going to give Donald Trump this power for 5 years. There's some Democrats who are involved in it too. We ashamed them enough that 19 Republicans voted with us and they did not get the FISA authorization for 5 years. But this is an ongoing fight today and in the weeks ahead.
Yeah, it's a big deal. It really is. Okay, so we pick up calls?
Yes,
Great.
Let's do it.
Okay, Joe in San Jose, you are on the air with Congressman Khanna.
Congressman, I really appreciate you stepping up and representing us here in San Jose. I see you're all in with Tom Steyer, and I think that's a good thing. I'd like to see if we could influence maybe our senators to endorse somebody. I don't know if they're going to endorse Steyer or if they're going to endorse somebody, but it's a big field, and I think we don't want to make the same mistake that the Republicans just made by not endorsing anyone. So I wondered if you could use your influence as my congressman to see if we can get behind somebody so that we can take back our country. Thank you.
Well, I do think it's important that we get a Democrat or hopefully 2 Democrats in the top 2. I like Tom Steyer because he's for single payer, he's for a billionaire tax, he's for breaking up PG&E. But there are, of course, 2 other Democrats running, Katie Porter, Javier Becerra, who have a decent chance. Man Mahan, the the mayor of San Jose. So I do hope that the party will soon coalesce and that we can get a Democrat. But for me, that choice is Tom Steyer.
Joe in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, you are on the air with Congressman Khanna.
Hey, Aro, let me just say thank you for being such a loud and proud voice for the truth across the country and your progressive stances on things that really aren't far left. They're actually the center. But I did want to ask you what the status was of your efforts to get banking records, because one of the banks I think you would find the most information is the Bank of New York Mellon. A lot of people don't know this. They have $59 trillion in deposits. And this delinquent government of Israel and Epstein Bank that they used. And if you go back to Barack, Ehud, who met with Epstein more than the former president of Israel, and met monthly with him during Trump's first run for president. I think they might have the naughty pictures. That's why he's helping Israel do the destruction he is. Thank you.
Well, look, I do think we need to get the financial records, and certainly Ehud Barak was all over the Epstein files, and there needs to be more information about what his connection was to Epstein. There needs to be more information about what Epstein's connection was with the intelligence agencies, whether our own or Mossad or others. But I try not to speculate in terms of things that I don't know, other than to say that we need the financial records out, and we need the next president to have a national security commission that basically looks at Epstein's status and relationship with government and looks at the classified information and provides a transparent report to the American people, because there are a lot of unanswered questions.
There you go. Congressman Ro Khanna is with us for the hour in a National Progressive Town Hall meeting here on the Thom Hartmann program. Khanna.house.gov is his website. We'll be back with more of your calls for Congressman Khanna, Vice Chair of the Congressional Progressive Caucus, in just a moment. Stay with us. It's 15 minutes past the hour.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
Rep Ro Khanna is his Blue Sky handle, and I believe his Twitter handle as well. We'll be back with your calls for Representative Ro Khanna. Welcome back. Keno in Lakeland, Florida. You're on the air with Congressman Khanna.
Yes, thank you so much, Congressman, for being available for questions from the public. Tom has talked about getting a comprehensive immigration bill passed before the elections. Is that possible? I've been pushing for that. I've written letters to about 10 congressmen and senators, and is there one Democratic congressman that we can designate to be the lead person to negotiate with the Republicans? Even the past Senator Langford's bill, get something done, and later it can be modified and changed and improved. But get something, some movement on a comprehensive immigration bill. Is there one Democrat that would you be the one, or who can we that are interested in this lobby and encourage and be a cheerleader for?
Thank you.
Doing this in the Obama and Biden years. We need to get comprehensive immigration. Look, I'm for a path to citizenship, but at the very least, we should start with things that we may get agreement on, which is that for certain construction workers, farm workers, workers in the hospitality industry, let's at least get legal status. Let's get legal status for a lot of these folks. They can work. They can send money back home to where their home countries. They can go back and forth. I mean, obviously, we want ultimately them to vote and be citizens, but we keep trying for the whole thing, and we don't make any progress. And so I am of the view that we do need a comprehensive immigration solution, but it should be actually delivering something next time we have the House, the Senate, and the presidency, or if Trump is open to it, which sometimes he signals he is, but these days he is not. The other thing we have to do is really dismantle ICE, tear it down. We had the INS from the New Deal all the way up to George W. Bush. We should have the immigration enforcement under the Justice Department. The ICE came about because of 9/11, and obviously you need some coordination with other intelligence agencies, but we can do that while still having Justice Department oversight of immigration.
Tina in Cottonwood, Arizona. You're on the air with Representative Khanna.
Good morning. I'd like to know what's being done about the high-cost prescription drugs, because my generic version of Advair Discus went up through United Healthcare from $47 a month to $108.70 a month.
Tina, that is outrageous. You know, I have asthma. I am much better now, but there was a time where I had used Advair, so I understand how costly that can be and what a drain that is. I thought that Senator Sanders actually had gotten a voluntary agreement on those inhalers not being higher priced. Now, maybe that agreement didn't apply to Advair or has not, or has run its course. But this is exactly why we need a Medicare for all, with Medicare negotiating these drug prices. And this is why we need Sanders in my bill, which says that Americans shouldn't be paying more for these drugs than people in other countries, and that if they are, then we should automatically have the generic version.
We just have 10 seconds. Do you think the Democratic Party will ever endorse Medicare for all officially?
You know, it was part of our platform, as you know, up till 1980, and then Carter took it out against Reagan. So I do. I believe this is the time where we will have, by 2028, running on Medicare for all, especially also, Tom, in an AI world where people know their jobs are precarious. It just makes no sense to tie your health care to your job. Just on a rational basis, It doesn't make sense.
Amen. Congressman Ro Khanna with us. We'll be back in 60 seconds. I've got to read an ad over on the commercial side. We'll hear a promo here. We'll be right back.
Thanks.
Missed my opening rant today? It's usually published over at HartmannReport.com, where you can read it and share it with your friends for free. Check it out, HartmannReport.com. So have you noticed that the Republicans are pretty much not talking about a constitutional convention anymore? They used to be gung-ho to rewrite the Constitution. You know, they wanted to put corporate personhood in there. They wanted change it so that women can't vote. They wanted to do away with the election of senators, repeal the 17th Amendment, take us back to them being appointed by the states. They had all these weird, they wanted to outlaw labor unions, all these weird ideas, but they've stopped talking about it. I mean, they're still moving forward on it, but it's not. Project 2025, for example, their ultimate talking document does not have one single mention in it about a constitutional convention. Why would that be? Well, it's because the Supreme Court is doing their work for them. I mean, they have overturned Article 2. They've overturned the 1st, 4th, 9th, and 14th Amendments. They've overturned Article 1, Section 7. All the details of this whole thing are over at HartmannReport.com. You got to check it out. Welcome back. Congressman Ro Khanna is with us for the hour, taking your calls. Vice Chair of the Congressional Progressive Caucus, representing the 17th District in California. Steve in Phoenix, Arizona, you're on the air with Representative Khanna.
Hi, gentlemen. I, too, am an asthmatic and would appreciate it being lowered. I have to fight with my drug. I have to pay my own out of my own pocket. At any rate, a couple quick things that are real easy. Number one, is Ken Martin doing anything for the Democrats? He doesn't seem to want to appear on Tom's show. I asked Representative Pocan this about 3 months ago, and, I'd like to get your take on it. Number two, I saw Mitt Romney on C-SPAN Monday night at Harvard, and he's spouting an old lies and tropes about, well, Kamala might have won the the election, but they kept the border open. And then also he's talking about culture wars and stuff like that. And the Democrats never had anything like that. What I want to say is I hope we can get out in front of this, especially the border thing, and ads on TV, social media, especially social media, and reinforce there never has been open borders. Thanks, gentlemen. I hope you have a great weekend. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Well, I appreciate it. Certainly, I think we can make the case that the Democrats are for secure borders. We're against employers exploiting undocumented workers and paying them low wages and treating them in terrible conditions. And Tom has been saying this, and Bernie's been saying this for years, that really, if you want to go after folks, go after the employers who are abusing those who are undocumented. And that'll unite Americans. And that's, in my view, what the Democrats need to be doing, which is having a strong working and middle class agenda, saying we're going to tax billionaires, we're going to have health care, we're going to have child care, and that's how we're going to rebuild our majority. So I just think Romney is wrong to say that we lost just because of the border. We lost because we didn't have a clear economic message.
David in Los Angeles, you're on the air with Congressman Khanna.
Thank you. Representative Khanna, I'm glad you answered the question that I called in on to why you support Tom Steyer. But I think it's important that all Democratic leaders, regardless of who they support, come out and support one of the candidates that is running in order to eliminate this bifurcation and splitting of the Democratic vote. My second question is, what do you believe the Democrats should do for this as a party that would be more than just being against Trump in the 2026 electoral election as well as the 2028?
Well, I often say we need to not just fight Trump, we need to fight the system that produced Trump. The system that produced Trump twice. By definition, this can't be the greatest generation of governance led to 2 Donald Trump terms. Something was deeply broken. And what I would argue was broken is we watched a group of people with wealth and power rig the system in their own benefit. And we've watched working and middle-class families fall behind, that they don't have good, high-paying jobs. They aren't confident that their kids are going to have a good future. They can't afford the cost of health care and child care and housing. Many aren't able to buy a house. And the Democratic Party has to use this moment to say incrementalism is not enough, tinkering is not enough, nudges are not enough. We are going to offer a new deal for our time, one that doesn't exclude the Black South or in turn Japanese Americans, one that's a multiracial new deal that recognizes the role that the tech economy has, but is relevant for our times to make sure people have economic security everywhere and that we don't have this kind of wealth inequality. We won't have that 2026 message because the party is too diverse, and probably a lot of it will be basic. Let's stop Trump in places we can agree on. But long term, as we move towards 26 and 28, we need that bold progressive vision. And we saw someone, Anna Lilia, win in New Jersey last night in a moderate district on that bold progressive vision.
Congressman, we just have about 50 seconds here before the hard break at the bottom of the hour. I'm curious your thoughts or how you would describe, an earlier caller referenced it, that really the policies that you and I and other progressives, Bernie, have been promoting for years and years and years are really embraced by well over 50, 60, in some cases 80% of Americans. This is not the left, we're the middle.
Right. Well, it's always surprised me because a lot of these policies go back to the New Deal, and the last time a Democratic president tried running on the New Deal, he got 4 terms. So now, of course, he won World War II as well, but still, I mean, that happened towards the end of his presidency. These are basic policies. What we're saying is every American should have health care, they should have child care, that in the richest country in the world, at a time we're producing more wealth than ever before, we should have some basic economic Bill of Rights for Americans. And you see these things falling 70, 80%, but now you have a generation that's winning on these in Congress, in the Senate. I never felt better about a progressive takeover of our party.
I'm with you. I'm so optimistic, actually, as rough as this is, as these times are. Congressman Khanna is with us for the hour. The vice chair of the Congressional Progressive Caucus, represents California 17th in the House. We'll be right back with more of your calls for him after this break here at the bottom of the hour.
You're listening to the Thom Hartmann Program. Call 202-808-9925.
27 minutes past the hour. We'll be back with Congressman Khanna in just a few minutes. Democrats vow daily war votes. AIPAC's Jared Golden sinks a war resolution. Minnesota charges an ICE thug. Hormuz threatens food collapse. Trump snubs RFK Jr. And dementia, or just morbidly rich? Good morning. This is the Commonwealth Report, news for the public, not the powerful. You can sign up for morning and evening news at commonwealthreport.news. It's free. Will Republicans face daily war votes as polls collapse? House Democrats are done playing nice on Donald Trump's illegal war with Iran. They're rolling out an aggressive new strategy. Introduce a war powers resolution every single day the House is in session until one passes or Trump ends this reckless war. The plan came out of the Progressive Caucus lunch Thursday and got traction even with centrist Democrats. And here's why. A CBS poll shows 60% of Americans disapprove of this war. 64% disapprove of how Trump is handling it. Gas is pushing $5 a gallon in Nevada. Republicans are sticking with Trump for now, but with the 2026 midterms looming, that wall could crack. Congress has a constitutional duty to rein in a reckless president. That's the whole point. AIPAC Democrat sinks war powers resolution by a single vote. And here's the outrage. The House War Powers resolution to end Trump's Iran war failed Thursday by one vote, 213 to 214. Every Democrat voted to end the war except one, Jared Golden of Maine. The same Jared Golden who has pocketed over $817,000 from AIPAC during his career. He sided with Republicans to let Trump's war grind on. And this happened the very same day Democrats were vowing to force a vote on this very single day the House is in session. Golden claimed the resolution would, quote, weaken our hand. Yeah, what it would do is bring our troops home. One AIPAC Democrat stood between Congress and a constitutional check on presidential war powers. That's what bought-off politicians look like. Will ICE finally face real accountability? Something historic just happened in Minnesota. A Hennepin County prosecutor criminally charged an on-duty ICE agent with 2 counts of second-degree assault. Gregory Donald Morgan Jr. allegedly pulled a gun on 2 civilians in broad daylight during a road rage incident on Highway 62 back in February. County Attorney Mary Moriarty filed the charges Thursday. A nationwide warrant is out for his arrest. This is the first state criminal prosecution of a federal immigration agent since Trump's Operation Metro Surge began. ICE shot 3 people dead in Minneapolis. 0 charges. Well, until now, and not for the deaths. Moriarty said worrying about federal blowback is not a concern of ours. Her job is to enforce state law. When an administration acts like it's above the law, one county attorney with a spine can change everything. Is our global food system teetering on collapse? Trump's Iran war didn't just spike your gas prices. It's threatening to crash the global food supply. The Strait of Hormuz carries roughly 1/3 of the world's seaborne fertilizer trade. Since the February 28 bombing, tanker traffic through that strait has collapsed by more than 90%. Fertilizer prices have jumped 20 to 40%. The World Food Program warns up to 45 million people could face life-threatening hunger. The UN's Food and Agriculture Organization says we have a 3-month window before planting decisions get locked in for the whole season. Bangladesh, Egypt, Kenya, Sri Lanka, all of them staring down a food emergency. Here at home, American corn farmers are switching to soybeans because they can't afford the fertilizer that corn requires. Your grocery bill is about to get a whole lot uglier. That's what reckless war does. Trump thumbs his nose at Bob Kennedy with his CDC pick. Donald Trump threw his own health secretary under the bus Thursday. He nominated Dr. Erica Schwartz to run the CDC, a former deputy surgeon general described by your ex-boss as, quote, really wicked smart and not subject to rumor and conspiracy theories, end quote. Translation, unlike Bob Kennedy, Schwartz would be the 4th person tapped to run the CDC during Trump's second term. Kennedy fired the last confirmed director, Susan Menares, after she refused to play along with his anti-vax agenda. A federal judge last month ruled Kennedy's vaccine schedule changes were, quote, arbitrary and capricious. Measles is surging. Americans are dying of preventable diseases. And Trump, finally, for once, seems to be quietly admitting that his own health secretary is a walking public health disaster. Has Trump got dementia, or is he just morbidly rich? And finally, this. At a Las Vegas tax event Thursday, Donald Trump stopped mid-speech to ask what a corner store is. Quote, what is a corner store? I never heard that term. Who the hell wrote that? Let that sink in. The President of the United States has never heard of a corner store. He then said poor people, quote, don't think in terms of deductions because, well, they don't have any. Meanwhile, gas is over $4 a gallon, pushing $5 in Nevada, and he called the Iran war a little diversion. So the question today, is Trump suffering from dementia, or is he just so morbidly rich that he's completely disconnected from the way ordinary Americans live? Never been in a store. He's always had a maid shopping for him. Either way, he's steering the country, and that should terrify all of us. And that's the way it is today, Friday, April 17th, 2026. I'm Thom Hartmann. Did you know that every weekday we send out an email before the show giving you all the topics coming up so you can be fully informed and ready to interact with our program? Or that after the show we send out Sue's Stack, a list of every topic I've discussed along with clickable hot links to every source of information I've shared with you on the air? It's all completely free and available over at thom.tv, THOM.tv. Check it out. Welcome back. 34 minutes past the hour. Congressman Khanna, Vice Chair of the Congressional Progressive Caucus, taking your calls for the hour. And Jack in Grand Beach, Michigan, our favorite right-wing caller. You're on the air with Congressman Khanna.
Sure. I appreciate the acknowledgement. Hey, real quick, Roe did a interview with Bill O'Reilly a couple months ago. And, he never mentioned anything about an illegal war to Bill. And Bill called him out on the satellite locations, which the congressman knows is the one main location that got bombed in June.
Him, Jack, if you have a question, just ask him.
I know. Yes, I'm going to ask him why. Okay. Why would he? Why would he lie to the American people about calling this an illegal war when in fact it's not? Trump's doing the same thing that Obama did to Libya, Syria, Afghanistan, Yemen. It's not an illegal war, and the congressman knows it.
Congressman.
Well, I appreciate the question. You know, I had called out Libya as an illegal war. Even when President Obama was president, I worked against stopping, I worked to stop the Yemen war, both under Trump and Biden. Bernie Sanders and I passed the War Powers Resolution. It's not partisan. The reality is it's illegal because Donald Trump didn't get the authorization of Congress. It is immoral because he's threatening to wipe out Iranian civilization, and that there was not a direct threat that was imminent that required military force without where we couldn't have had diplomacy. So I believe it was both illegal and immoral. The immoral argument, I think, is open to more judgment. The illegal argument, even Lindsey Graham may agree, saying, look, the president's in a war and there's never, Congress hasn't been consulted.
If I could just add a question to that. The War Powers Act that was passed in the 70s says that the president can act within a 60-day window without congressional authorization if America has been attacked. And they're talking about it on TV. I was hearing MSNBC, regular commentators, I mean, you know, progressives even, saying, well, you know, he's got this 60-day window. We were never attacked. How can they do that? How can they, you know, invoke the War Powers Act, you know, in the 60-day thing and maybe even a 30-day extension when we were never attacked in the first place? What am I missing?
Yeah, they're claiming that we were under imminent attack. Of course, that's ridiculous because Iran doesn't have ICBMs. I mean, they're claiming maybe our troops could have been attacked at stations in the Gulf, but we weren't being attacked. We started being attacked when we attacked them. So you're absolutely right that the War Powers Resolution requires an imminent attack for 60 days. Here you have the president even being cavalier about it. He says basically, we're in war, we're you know, and then he'll say, well, my legal advisors say I shouldn't use that word. But this is not, you don't have to have legalese. I mean, the American people are capable of common sense. We are basically in a full-scale war with Iran. That's what requires Congress's approval. When the president has discretion is if someone is about to attack us, if there's some imminent attack on us, the president has some discretion. Okay, they can fend that off before having to come to Congress. But this is not that case.
Caleb in Chicago, you're on the air with Congressman Khanna.
Thank you for taking my call, Tom. Congressman, I just want you to know I watch you all the time on CNBC. Sometimes I wish you weren't playing so cute with Joe Kernan. But I just wanted to bring something up. I don't know if anybody's really seeing this, but what I see is right now the price of oil is at $90. The physical price of oil is actually at $150. The same thing is happening with silver and metals. I believe this is to expose our financial system and the fact that our economy basically manipulates the world markets. And I believe this is going to benefit China and Putin because they want to decouple from the dollar. And I see what's happening right now is going to lead us that way. Your thoughts?
Well, we should have, first of all, a ban on exports of crude oil. We gave a handout in 2015 to the oil companies. They're letting oil companies export our crude oil while American prices are going up. We should have a windfall profits tax on these extraordinary profits oil companies are making and provide a rebate to the American people. Both of those are policies that I have proposed. But, you know, what the war is doing, you're absolutely right, is just giving China more say in the Strait of Hormuz, and it is increasing the price of oil, which is helping a petrostate like Russia. It also should highlight the need for us to double down on renewable energy as a matter of energy security. I wish President Biden had made that case with Ukraine, that this was a time for us to have renewable energy and an investment for our national security.
Roger in Seattle, you're on the air with Congressman Khanna.
A quick pointer to how to answer your question about just war. Talk to any rabbi about how they interpret the Hebrew commandment that you can stone your teenager. So what I'm going to ask you is a repeat of an email that I sent to the chairman of the DCCC, your colleague, Susan Delbene. And I gave a copy to Adam Smith, who's across the lake from me. But why can't you get a block of 20 of your Republicans? I think there are at least 20 of them that have already announced they're not going to run. So get a block of them, that, you know, like a herd of antelope,
Okay, maybe Trump will pick off one of them, but have that privilege motion to get Speaker Jeffries in, and then everything else will fall into place. Why can't you do that?
Well, some of these people I know well, like Don Bacon. We've gone to Mexico together to meet President Sheinbaum. We chair armed services. That's just a bridge too far for them, even though they're retiring. Now, could they vote for someone like Thomas Massie or a compromise, a more independent Republican, perhaps? But, we were not able to peel off more than Massie on this War Powers resolution. Even Davidson went present. So those votes just do not exist. So the party loyalty is still strong. Epstein is the only place we've been able to break it so far.
Bill in Clifton, New Jersey, you're on the air with Congressman Khanna.
Yeah, hi. Regarding the Supreme Court, I don't understand why, number one, there isn't a term limit in terms of age 70, and why we don't go back to the two-thirds majority in the Senate to put someone on the Supreme Court, because I think it's that important a job that we need that much. I know they changed at one point, but it's ridiculous. And I know Tom's talking about term limits for Congress, which is also ridiculous. But do you think that's a good idea?
Yeah. Thank you, Bill.
Well, Bill, I'm certainly for term limits for Supreme Court justices. I have a bill that says 18 years, and then they can go take senior status. They can be a judge for life and go to the appellate court. I don't believe we should go back to two-thirds. In fact, showing that we can get Supreme Court justices on with 51 votes, in my view, means that we should be doing more things without the filibuster in the Senate. If you can have an exception to the filibuster for confirming a Supreme Court justice, certainly you should be able to have an exception to the filibuster for enshrining voting rights or abortion rights and codifying Roe versus Wade. And I hope the next time we have control of all branches of government, we do that.
Alfredo in Mountain View, California. You're on the air with Congressman Khanna.
Yeah, thank you for taking my call, Tom, and thank you, Representative Khanna, for all your service. My question is regarding the bombing of the school in Iran that killed over 165 little children ages 6 to 12. My understanding is that the military receives satellite intelligence before launching a Tomahawk missile. So they knew in advance that this was a school. And the Tomahawk missiles also have cameras. And they knew that this was a school before they hit it. So is there going to be any investigations about these war crimes? In my opinion, these are war crimes. Thank you.
Well, I do think there needs to be an investigation. I believe that the hitting of the school was a crime, and it needs to be prosecuted for those accountable. Whether it was reliant on too much AI data needs to be investigated. Who made the decision? Why the decision? And this is an important point, Tom. When we say human beings should make the decisions, of course that's true. But if they're just pushing the button and 95% of the analysis is on AI and they're being dependent on basically training machine learning, that's a problem. And so we also need to think about what does it really mean for human beings to be making this decision, and did we rely on data that was faulty?
Do you know if Grok was the AI that the Pentagon was using for this stuff? Because there's talk, the one that Elon Musk owns that has been programmed to make Nazi-like and racist statements. Because I've heard that that's the one that they wanted to bring into the Pentagon.
I don't know if Grok was what was involved. I think some of it is still classified in terms of what was really involved. And how they got this information, but that there needs to be an investigation into what was what was used, and then why the general ordered the strike based on that data.
Yeah. Amen. It's just about 45 minutes past the hour. Congressman Ro Khanna is with us for the hour, taking your calls. Vice Chair of the Congressional Progressive Caucus, representing the 17th District of California in the U.S. House. We'll be back with more of your calls for Representative Khanna in just a moment. Stay with us.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann. Visit thomhartmann.com for audio and video archives.
His website is Rep. Ro Khanna, Khanna, and Khanna.house.gov. Rep. Khanna is his social media handle. We'll be right back. And welcome back. Valerie in Springfield, West Virginia, watching us on Free Speech TV. Valerie, you're on the air with Congressman Khanna.
Hi, Tom. Thank you so much for taking my call. I have listened to your program for years. I'm just so excited. And thank you, Congressman Khanna, for taking my question. My question is, I just saw a lady on TikTok who claims that from the ages of 8 months to 16 months, Donald Trump actually abused her sexually, and she claims that Putin has photos of these encounters and that Congress also has the photos, and she says she's ready to talk, and I just wondered if you knew anything about that.
Julie, I don't. She should contact the Oversight Committee, and we would be happy to have her talk to the lawyers and take her account seriously. But I have not seen these pictures or am aware of this person.
Steve in New Boston, Michigan, you are on the air with Representative Khanna.
Hello, Representative Khanna. My question today is, has contempt charges been brought against Pam Bandy yet for her refusal to show up per the subpoena that she was given to give testimony on the Epstein case?
No. Now, when Nancy Mason and I drafted the subpoena, we explicitly drafted it to apply to Pam Bandy as an individual, not as Attorney General. So she's completely, clearly in violation of it. And I believe that both civil and criminal contempt are appropriate, but we need to give her the ability to renegotiate it. If we brought it in now, we wouldn't meet the legal standard because there has to be some effort for Comer to try to reschedule it. She can cancel once and try to reschedule. But if that doesn't succeed, then we can bring criminal contempt. As you remember in the Clintons case, they tried a number of times before they brought the contempt motion. So I believe we have the votes to bring contempt, but we're giving a few weeks for the process to play out.
John in Cedar Falls, Iowa, you're on the air with Congressman Khanna.
Hi, Congressman. On the way in, just want to thank you for taking a selfie with me at a Bernie Sanders event in Waterloo, Iowa in 2020. I have a suggestion on... I'm sorry?
So it brings back memories.
Yeah. I have a suggestion for how to tax unrealized capital gains. It's particularly for, fat cats who pay themselves in stock instead of money to avoid paying income tax. So for someone like, say, Elon Musk, who, say, he gives himself 100 million shares, what they do is just have the company print an extra or issue an extra, 10 or 20 million shares to give to the IRS. That way, the IRS gets the money in the long run, but their interests are aligned with those of the company. And you don't force a sale. You don't force someone like Elon to sell a bunch of shares all at once, which would tank the stock price.
Let's get Congressman's thoughts on this. We're up against a break here.
It's an interesting proposal. I mean, Bernie Sanders and I, of course, have said that we need to have a 5% billionaire tax. Now, you're saying, what if the tax is all in? What you can do is offer a non-recourse loan. Elon Musk pledges the stock. You give a loan based on it. He can use the loan to pay the stock and then pay the tax. And then if the stock goes down, he won't be personally liable. So there are solutions to this idea that let's not tax illiquid stocks and non-recourse loans.
That's great. 49 minutes past the hour. We'll be right back with Congressman Khanna. Stick around. Hey, thanks so much for sharing our program and for reaching out to our stations and sponsors and letting them know that you're listening. It really means a lot to us. Welcome back. 10 minutes before the hour. John in Minneapolis, you're on the air with Congressman Khanna.
Yeah, this is a question about the War Powers Resolution Act that was defeated essentially with the help of Jared Goulden, who is a representative from Maine, Democrat. And I was wondering, what can we do to protect ourselves from people? What kind of discipline is going to be meted out on this person? It really irritates me when people like, Joe Manchin or Kristen Sinema, side with the Republicans and, undermine the efforts of the party. I've been a loyal Democrat all my life. And I was just wondering if there's anything that can be done for people like that, or to people like that, rather.
Well, it was very frustrating, very disappointing. Massey and I had brought the War Powers Resolution weeks ago. We lost 4 Democrats then. We shouldn't have lost those Democrats. Now we got 3 of them back, and we still lost Golden. I agree with you. I think there should be more party discipline. Now, he's retiring, but you could say you can't serve on certain committees if you're not going to be with us on a key war and power vote. You're not going to be part of the key caucus benefit. So I do think on key places like this, we need to have strong leadership. And there's a frustration that we are not seeing that leadership. I mean, the day Donald Trump was on television threatening to wipe Iranian civilization off the face of the earth, we had some of our members of Congress and senators saying, well, I wish he would consult Congress. How about just saying, he can't commit genocide and that this is a 25th Amendment violation? So we need to have more strength in the Democratic Party to fight for our moral vision.
I would love to see you as the leader of the Democrats in the House. Russell in Lafayette, Indiana. You're on the air with Congressman Khanna.
Yeah, hey, Ro, how you doing?
Russell? Hi, Russell.
Russell, you're on.
Ro, thank you. Yeah, Ro Khanna, thank you for all you do, man. Dude, if I ever meet you, I'm going to kiss you right on the mouth. Right on the mouth. You too, Tom. Thank you. So you guys was talking earlier, and guy said, what's the problem? And you said, well, the problem is the system's broken. Yeah. But here's the thing. We, the American people, voted them clowns in. So the question is, why did we vote them clowns in? Well, I already know the answer to that. People want answers. And the first loudmouth that comes around and tells American people what they want to hear, they vote him in. How? So, my question is, how can we, as populist people, get a bigger microphone so you guys can be heard? Because I'm convinced if we can get you guys heard, there's so many people out here in the Midwest where I live, they've never heard Ro Khanna. They never heard of Thom Hartmann. They don't know who you guys are. We need a bigger microphone. We need to get you guys heard.
Got it, Russell. Thank you.
I appreciate it. I'm reminded of one of my professors in my early college days who said he always had one assumption, which is that the quietest person in the class was also the most thoughtful. Certainly, American democracy could use more thinkers, more substance than yellers. And here, I think, is what the good news is. People are seeing through Trump's charade. They're seeing through his bluster. They understand that his policies have led to the prices going up. They understand it's led to fewer jobs. They understand that it's led to wars overseas that he promised against. They understand it's led to a cover-up of the Epstein files, and they're tired of it. And I believe there's going to be a course correction in this country where people are going to say, well, what actually is going to help my family? What actually is going to move this country forward? What actually is going to move us into the future? And there is a great moment for a social movement, progressive politics to emerge. And how we will be heard is with a social movement that is in the streets, that is organizing, that is omnipresent across this country. That's the only way change has ever come about.
Ed in Belfair, Washington. You're on the air with Congressman Khanna.
Well, thank you for taking my call, Tom, and thank you for your voice, Representative Khanna. My question has to do with money and politics. I think that's the heart of the problem. I think the corruption from the money and Citizens United, in my lifetime, will we ever see that overturned? Thank you for your service and your voice. We very much appreciate it out here.
Ed, we must see this overturned. I agree with you. Money in politics is the root of the problem, where you have these billionaires and big pharma and big defense contractors pouring in millions to avoid change. Here's what we should do. We should say that we want to have an amendment to overturn Citizens United. And if we do not get 2/3 of Congress, we will call for a constitutional convention where under Article 5, you can get 2/3 of the states to offer the amendment to overturn Citizens United. Why is that important? Because we could mobilize the entire country within the first 100 days of the new presidency to say, yes, we are going to mobilize conservatives, progressives, independents to get money out of politics in the states if Congress isn't going to act. Second, we need to make sure that we regulate contributions to super PACs just like they're regulated to candidates. You can't give a candidate more than $3,500. You shouldn't be able to give a super PAC more than $3,500, even under Citizens United. And Summerlee and I have that bill.
Congressman, we have just 1 minute left in the program here in this hour. Thoughts on the coming weeks and how we can best engage in activism?
Well, we need to be vigilant on this FISA fight. I mean, they really are trying to give him 5 years for an extension of continuing to spy and surveil the American people. We need to stand up against that. We need to continue to have our voice heard against this war, to bring this war to an end. It's costing Americans lives, it's costing lives in Iran, and it's really wreaked havoc with the economy. We need to continue to fight to have the Epstein class be held accountable, because otherwise people won't believe in one system of justice. And I believe the time is now to say wealth inequality is the central issue. We're in a new Gilded Age. We need to be open to taxing billionaires, to have health care, child care, education, housing for all, a new economic bill of rights for our nation. But this is a time where we can reshape our politics. A few generations have that opportunity. We do. And we're on the cusp of seeing a new realignment in American politics. And many of your listeners will be part of it.
Well, very, very well said. Congressman Ro Khanna, thank you so much for dropping by today. It's always great having you with us.
Always love it. Thank you, Tom, for having me.
Thank you, sir. Up next, term limits won't drain the swamp. They'll flood it. Term limits in Congress, anyway. Why are Democrats pushing this stuff? I mean, I get term limits for the Supreme Court. I'm all in favor of that. But for Congress, it's a bad idea. I'll tell you about that after the break.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann.
Democrats vow daily war votes. AIPAC's Jared Golden sinks a war resolution. Minnesota charges an ICE thug. Hormuz threatens food collapse. Trump threat snubs RFK Jr. And dementia, or just morbidly rich? Good morning. This is the Commonwealth Report, news for the public, not the powerful. You can sign up for morning and evening news at commonwealthreport.news. It's free. Will Republicans face daily war votes as polls collapse? House Democrats are done playing nice on Donald Trump's illegal war with Iran. They're rolling out an aggressive new strategy. Introduce a war powers resolution every single day the House is in session until one passes or Trump ends this reckless war. The plan came out of the Progressive Caucus lunch Thursday and got traction even with centrist Democrats. And here's why. A CBS poll shows 60% of Americans disapprove of this war. 64% disapprove of how Trump is handling it. Gas is pushing $5 a gallon in Nevada. Republicans are sticking with Trump for now, but with the 2026 midterms looming, that wall could crack. Congress has a constitutional duty to rein in a reckless president. That's the whole point. AIPAC Democrats sinks war powers resolution by a single vote. And here's the outrage. The House War Powers resolution to end Trump's Iran war failed Thursday by one vote, 213 to 214. Every Democrat voted to end the war except one, Jared Golden of Maine. The same Jared Golden who has pocketed over $817,000 from AIPAC during his career. He sided with Republicans to let Trump's war grind on. And this happened the very same day Democrats were vowing to force a vote on this very single day the House is in session. Golden claimed the resolution would, quote, weaken our hand. Yeah, what it would do is bring our troops home. One AIPAC Democrat stood between Congress and a constitutional check on presidential war powers. That's what bought-off politicians look like. Will ICE finally face real accountability? Something historic just happened in Minnesota. A Hennepin County prosecutor criminally charged an on-duty ICE agent with 2 counts of second-degree assault. Gregory Donald Morgan Jr. allegedly pulled a gun on 2 civilians in broad daylight during a road rage incident on Highway 62 back in February. County Attorney Mary Moriarty filed the charges Thursday. A nationwide warrant is out for his arrest. This is the first state criminal prosecution of a federal immigration agent since Trump's Operation Metro Surge began. ICE shot 3 people dead in Minneapolis. 0 charges. Well, until now, and not for the deaths. Moriarty said worrying about federal blowback is not a concern of ours. Her job is to enforce state law. When an administration acts like it's above the law, one county attorney with a spine can change everything. Is our global food system teetering on collapse? Trump's Iran war didn't just spike your gas prices. It's threatening to crash the global food supply. The Strait of Hormuz carries roughly 1/3 of the world's seaborne fertilizer trade. Since the February 28 bombing, tanker traffic through that strait has collapsed by more than 90%. Fertilizer prices have jumped 20 to 40%. The World Food Program warns up to 45 million people could face life-threatening hunger. The UN's Food and Agriculture Organization says we have a 3-month window before planting decisions get locked in for the whole season. Bangladesh, Egypt, Kenya, Sri Lanka, all of them staring down a food emergency. Here at home, American corn farmers are switching to soybeans because they can't afford the fertilizer that corn requires. Your grocery bill is about to get a whole lot uglier. That's what reckless war does. Trump thumbs his nose at Bob Kennedy with his CDC pick. Donald Trump threw his own health secretary under the bus Thursday. He nominated Dr. Erica Schwartz to run the CDC, a former deputy surgeon general described by her ex-boss as, quote, really wicked smart and not subject to rumor and conspiracy theories, end quote. Translation, unlike Bob Kennedy, Schwartz would be the 4th person tapped to run the CDC during Trump's second term. Kennedy fired the last confirmed director, Susan Manaras, after she refused to play along with his anti-vax agenda. A federal judge last month ruled Kennedy's vaccine schedule changes were, quote, arbitrary and capricious. Measles is surging. Americans are dying of preventable diseases. And Trump, finally, for once, seems to be quietly admitting that his own health secretary is a walking public health disaster. Has Trump got dementia, or is he just morbidly rich? And finally this, at a Las Vegas tax event Thursday, Donald Trump stopped mid-speech to ask what a corner store is. Quote, what is a corner store? I never heard that term. Who the hell wrote that? Let that sink in. The President of the United States has never heard of a corner store. He then said poor people, quote, don't think in terms of deductions because, well, they don't have any. Meanwhile, gas is over $4 a gallon, pushing $5 in Nevada, and he called the Iran war a little diversion. So the question today, is Trump suffering from dementia, or is he just so morbidly rich that he's completely disconnected from the way ordinary Americans live? Never been in a store. He's always had a maid shopping for him. Either way, he's steering the country, and that should terrify all of us. And that's the way it is today, Friday, April 17th, 2026. I'm Thom Hartmann.
We say fight back!
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
Hey, welcome to the second hour of our program here on Anything Goes Friday weekend program, whatever you want to call it. My op-ed today over at HartmannReport.com, my daily take, is titled "Term Limits Won't Drain the Swamp, They'll Flood It." And what provoked this is I have heard now in just in the last 2 days, at least 3 or 4 times, I've heard politicians or TV commentators. In one case, it was one of the anchors actually over on MSNBC. She was talking with a veteran agency guy, and they were both talking about what the Democrats need to run on, and they were both agreeing, well, Democrats need to run on term limits. And I'm like, what the hell? I mean, this was George Herbert Walker Bush in 1990 when he was president. Rolled out term limits as the thing that he was going to run on in his failed 1992 presidential campaign when he ran against Bill Clinton and lost to Bill Clinton. And, term limits are widely popular among Americans. 70% of Americans want term limits because they don't understand what term limits do. They just think, oh, well, yeah, let's get rid of those bad politicians and get some good ones in. But term limits produce a whole lot of really bad consequences. First of all, they destroy the institutional knowledge of of Congress. When a new member of Congress is elected, or a new senator, and this is true of the states as well as the federal government, they typically hook up with an old timer, somebody who can be a mentor, somebody who can show them, where the bodies are buried, not literally, metaphorically, of course. How do you get legislation done? Who are the people that you go to if you need help with this or that or the other thing? Who are the energy experts? Who are the commerce experts? Who are the immigration experts? You find where the expertise is. Well, when you've got a constant churn in your legislature, there's no old timers to go to and ask those questions of, except the lobbyists. Now, Republicans have been pushing, and the Heritage Foundation and the Koch brothers back in the day have been pushing for term limits really hard for decades. And and like I said, this really started in 1990 when George Herbert Walker Bush pushed this. And, for this very reason, that because the lobbyists end up being the institutional knowledge. No Republican has ever, anywhere, at any time, said we should put term limits on lobbyists. So the permanent institutional infrastructure of the federal Congress or of state Congresses, when you have term limits, ends up being the lobbyists. It dramatically increases the power of the lobbyists. You also get rid of your high-impact legislators. With term limits, you wouldn't have Bernie Sanders. You wouldn't have Elizabeth Warren. You wouldn't have Ron Wyden or Maxine Waters or Barbara Lee or Pramila Jayapal or, the list goes on and on. But, there's other issues. We have an actual experiment that we can look at on term limits. The following states have passed term limits: Alabama, Arizona, Arkansas, California, Colorado, Florida, Louisiana, Maine, Michigan, Missouri, Montana, Nebraska, Nevada, Ohio, Oklahoma, and South Dakota. Every single, with the exception of South Dakota, which got them in 2022, every one of those states got their term limits as a result of Republican lobbying in the early 1990s. And it all came out of George Herbert Walker Bush's campaign for president. Every single one of them. And so now it's been, 30 years? 40 years almost? I guess 30 some odd, 36 years. So we can look and see what happened. And there have been a whole bunch of studies on this that just, lay out exactly what happens. Here's a quote. This is from the Citizens Research Council of Michigan. They published this paper in 2018 titled, "25 Years Later, Term Limits Have Failed to Deliver on Their Promise." Quote, "Legislative term limits in Michigan have failed to achieve their proponents' stated goals, ridding government of career politicians, increasing diversity among elected officials, and making elections more competitive. Term limits instead have made state legislators, especially House members, view their time as a stepping stone to another office. Term limits have failed to strengthen ties between legislators and their districts or sever cozy relationships with lobbyists. They have weakened the legislature in its relation to the executive branch. And that's another problem. It strengthens the executive branch in government because it weakens the legislature. Another problem with term limits. Another one of the problems is, if you're a young person who's looking at a career, say you're Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, and she's got a good college degree and everything, and she's got options. Are you going to run for Congress knowing that after 6 years or 4 years or 8 years or whatever the term is for the term limit, 6 is typical, that you're going to get kicked out? I mean, why would you do that? Especially if you've got a young family. You're gonna go for a job where, hey, there's the possibility that I can do this for the next 10, 20 years, and I can build a career essentially. There's frankly nothing wrong with people being career politicians if they're good politicians. I mean, Jamie Raskin, Bernie Sanders, these people, this is all they've ever done basically, and it's a good thing. So another problem is that because legislators know that they're going to get term limited out, there's an incentive for them to be thinking about, hey, what am I going to do when I get kicked out? And there's an easy answer to that question. If you're a legislator and you start sucking up to the lobbyist from the fossil fuel industry, then maybe they can get you a job with the fossil fuel industry when you're forced out. Or you suck up to the lobbyist and pass legislation that will help the lobbyists for the pharmaceutical industry, and hey, the pharmaceutical industry will be welcome, will welcome you when you get kicked out. You get the picture? I mean, term limits are about the worst idea imaginable. And when I saw these two people on MSNBC yesterday, and this was the day before I had seen a similar conversation on CNN. And then last week, we had Andy Beshear on the program, the governor of Kentucky, and he was like, we need to run on term limits. And I'm like, are you sure? I mean, the studies show that actually increases the power of the lobbyists. He's like, no, I'm sure. We need to run on term limits. I'm telling you, it's a terrible idea. And Democrats should not be embracing this Republican idea. I mean, the term limits there's multiple articles over on the Heritage Foundation's website calling for term limits. Project 2025 calling for term limits. The Brookings Institution did a deep dive into the 30-year experiment that we've got with term limits with these states, and they published a paper titled 5 Reasons to Oppose Congressional Term Limits. And number one, it takes away power from the voters because we actually do have term limits. They're called elections. Number two, it severely decreases congressional capacity, which what I talked about earlier. 3, limits incentives for gaining policy expertise. Why why specialize? Why become like Adam Smith, who has been on this program before? He's the ranking Democrat on the House Armed Services Committee. It takes a long time to understand how that all works, what's going on in the Pentagon and all this stuff. If you're going to be kicked out in 6 months, why bother? Number 4, automatically kicks out effective lawmakers. And number 6, that does little to minimize corruptive behavior, slow the revolving door. As a result, the following states have already repealed their legislative term limits: Idaho, Massachusetts, Oregon, Utah, Washington State, and Wyoming. They've all repealed their term limits because it was a disastrous experiment. So the next time you hear some politician or TV pundit proclaiming that term limits are the best solution to the problem of what, geriatric legislators or corruption or whatever, tell them what's going on. Tell them that's insane. Well, it's Republican. And unless they're just simply naive or cynical, or maybe they're a former Republican, let's just, spread the word. Term limits are a bad thing.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
Now, I will add the exception to that are term limits for unelected offices like the Supreme Court. But that's a whole different thing because we don't elect Supreme Court members. We'll be right back. And welcome back. Tom in Los Angeles. Hey, Tom. What's on your mind today?
Hi, Tom. Hey, Yeah, in this current Trump administration, there are so many serious concerns. It's just a blizzard of crazy. But there's one thing that I just can't get out of my head, and that's the idea of this Qatari 747 that's being converted to an Air Force One. Technically, I guess they're calling it an executive airlift. But the two Air Force Ones we have now are 37 years old, but they're still probably the two most airworthy planes in the world, and we have two Boeing new Air Force Ones that are due in mid-2028. The taxpayers are going to spend $400 million, I've heard up to $1 billion to do this conversion.
And then Trump is going to take it with him when he goes.
The stipulation is that the plane will be given to the Trump Library Foundation, which, as we all know, is just going to be a personal slush fund for Trump.
Yeah.
And he'll probably wind up selling it back to the U.S., and the emoluments clause prevent this from being given to Trump and his foundation. And I've heard no pushback on this. Have you?
I've heard Republican or Democrats squawk about it, but to the best of my knowledge, I think it should be part of the articles of impeachment. And actually, I think it is one of the. I'm not sure which one. I don't know if it was Al Green's or one of the other ones. There's like three articles, or three different people in Congress have introduced three different sets of articles of impeachment against Trump. And I know that one of them includes the plane as basically taking a bribe.
I would think if the Dems do take the House at a minimum, that they should be able to block it somehow, shouldn't they?
Yeah, I'm with you. I hope so.
Yeah.
Tom, thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks for bringing that up. That was a good one.
Thanks. Great talking.
Yep.
Okay.
Thank you. Eric in Deltona, Florida. Hey, Eric, what's up?
Hi, Tom. Long-time listener. I was calling to talk about a bill that's in Congress right now, the Futures Act. It's for sharing our technological advances with the state of Israel, and it puts it in a legal format. So forever from here on, we would have to share everything we learn technologically with Israel.
Whoa, AIPAC has been busy at work, haven't they?
Yeah, it seems like a dangerous prospect for a state that's so belligerent and genocidal.
Yeah, I agree. And, it's like Jared Golden, the one guy who voted not to end the war, the one Democrat, took $800,000 from AIPAC. I learned today, I heard it on NPR, that in southern Lebanon, which Israel just started bombing and invading, a week ago, 2 weeks ago? They've already destroyed 40,000 homes. Can you imagine if somebody came in with bulldozers and bombs and destroyed 40,000? I mean, that's an entire neighborhood here in Portland, 40,000 homes.
Yeah, it's pretty heart-wrenching.
Yeah,
and it seems like we can't detach ourselves from them.
No, it's time to say, until Israel goes back to being a proper member of the family of nations, they're on their own, in my opinion. Eric, I got to run, but thank you for the call. Spot on. 19 minutes past the hour. I'll be back with you in 60 seconds. Stay tuned. Change starts with you. You can be calling your Democratic or Republican representatives to let them know what you think by calling 202-224-3121. It's the Capitol switchboard. It'll get you right through to them. Corporate raiders, when they acquire a company, basically strip it down. They take everything of value out of it, put it in their own pockets, leave just a husk of a company. I watched, Bain Capital do this with Clear Channel. In fact, they just ran it into bankruptcy, and they run off with all the cash. Well, that's what Donald Trump is doing to America right now. He's basically behaving like a corporate raider, taking, all the assets of this company and handing as many of them as possible off to billionaires and shutting down programs that benefit average working class people. This is an all billionaire cabinet or largely billionaire cabinet with a billionaire president, and they're dancing to the tune of the billionaires. It shouldn't surprise us, I suppose, but there's a whole article about it over in my Daily Take entitled Trump's Hostile Takeover of America, the Corporate Raiders' Final Heist, over at HartmannReport.com. Check it out.
They say cut the ears, clean the rot away, kick 'em out fast, let the system reset. But the suits don't leave, they just change their names, and the money still flows through the same old veins. You can't fix a fire by feeding the flame. Term limits won't drain the swamp, they'll just make it deeper, darker than it was. You can trade the faces, swap the names you want, but the hands on the strings still pull them all. New blood walks in, don't know the ground. Whispers in the hall say we'll show you around, but the map they hand's drawn in corporate ink, and the price of the lesson is how you think. Power don't vanish, it just rearranges. Term limits won't drain the swamp, they'll just make it deeper, colder than truth. You can send them home, call it justice done, but the swamp just swallows someone new. We already vote, we already choose, that's the line they're trying to erase. Take it out of your hands, put it into the law, and call it a reform with a straight face. Term limits won't drain the swamp, they'll just lock the doors and dim the light. If you wanna fight corruption down, don't give up your voice.
Hello? Hey, will Republicans, 23 minutes past the hour, will Republicans face daily war votes as polls collapse? Plus, AIPAC Democrats sinks war powers resolution by a single vote. House Democrats are basically done playing nice on Donald Trump's illegal war with Iran. They're rolling out an aggressive new strategy. They've introduced a new war powers resolution every single day that the House is in session. They did it yesterday. They're going to do it today until one passes or Trump ends this reckless war. Now, this plan came out of the Progressive Caucus. You just heard from Congressman Ro Khanna, the vice chair of that. It came out of their lunch last Thursday. It got traction even with centrist Democrats. And here's why. A CBS poll shows that 60% of Americans disapprove of this war. 64% disapprove of how Trump is handling it. Gas is pushing $5 a gallon in Nevada. It's $6 in parts of California. Somebody emailed me a picture of a gas pump. $6.80 in California. Republicans are sticking with Trump for now, though. But with the 2026 midterms coming, that wall could crack. Congress has a constitutional duty to rein in a reckless president. I mean, that's the whole point of Congress, right? But the problem is we have an AIPAC Democrat who sunk the war powers resolution by a single vote. I mean, here's the outrage. The House War Powers Resolution to end Trump's Iran war failed yesterday, Thursday, by one vote, 213 to 214. Every Democrat voted to end the war except one, Jared Golden of Maine. The same Jared Golden who has pocketed over $817,000 from AIPAC during his career. He sided with the Republicans and with Benjamin Netanyahu to let Trump's war grind on. And this happened the very same day Democrats were vowing to force a vote on this every single day the House is in session. Jared claimed the resolution would, quote, weaken our hand. What it would do is it would bring our troops home. I mean, we're up to 60,000 troops there now. One AIPAC Democrat stood between Congress and a constitutional check on presidential war powers. That's what bought and paid politicians look like. That's what it looks like when you let, AIPAC or any political action committee that's representing literally a foreign nation buy and sell American legislators. It's just wrong. It's just fundamentally, profoundly, and deeply wrong. And sadly, I mean, Jared Golden, Ro Khanna talked about this, Jared Golden is not going to run for re-election. He's a Democrat from Maine. He's one of these, quote, problem solver Democrats, which are the Democrats who take a lot of corporate money and solve problems for those companies. They've got their own caucus. Mark Pocan has told us the story about when he joined them for like a week and they kicked him out. But this is a very, very real problem. And I think that Hakeem Jeffries should say to Jared Golden, okay, that's it. You may only be here for the rest of the year, but you're no longer going to have any committee assignments. You screwed us, and we're not going to take it. But unfortunately, it seems that Hakeem Jeffries doesn't have that kind of courage. You might want to call him and let him know what you think. 202-224-3121 is the number for the Congressional Switchboard.
You're listening to the Thom Hartmann Program. Call 202-808-9925.
27 minutes past the hour. I'll be right back with more of the news of the day and your calls. Stay with us. Democrats vow daily war votes. AIPAC's Jared Golden sinks a war resolution. Minnesota charges an ICE thug. Hormuz threatens food collapse. Trump threat snubs RFK Jr. And dementia or just morbidly rich? Good morning. This is the Commonwealth Report, news for the public, not the powerful. You can sign up for morning and evening news at commonwealthreport.news. It's free. Will Republicans face daily war votes as polls collapse? House Democrats are done playing nice on Donald Trump's illegal war with Iran. They're rolling out an aggressive new strategy. Introduce a war powers resolution every single day the House is in session until one passes or Trump ends this reckless war. The plan came out of the Progressive Caucus lunch Thursday and got traction even with centrist Democrats. And here's why. A CBS poll shows 60% of Americans disapprove of this war. 64% disapprove of how Trump is handling it. Gas is pushing $5 a gallon in Nevada. Republicans are sticking with Trump for now, but with the 2026 midterms looming, that wall could crack. Congress has a constitutional duty to rein in a reckless president. That's the whole point. AIPAC Democrat sinks war powers resolution by a single vote. And here's the outrage. The House War Powers resolution to end Trump's Iran war failed Thursday by one vote, 213 to 214. Every Democrat voted to end the war except one, Jared Golden of Maine. The same Jared Golden who has pocketed over $817,000 from AIPAC during his career. He sided with Republicans to let Trump's war grind on. And this happened the very same day Democrats were vowing to force a vote on this very single day the House is in session. Golden claimed the resolution would, quote, weaken our hand. Yeah, what it would do is bring our troops home. One AIPAC Democrat stood between Congress and a constitutional check on presidential war powers. That's what bought-off politicians look like. Will ICE finally face real accountability? Something historic just happened in Minnesota. A Hennepin County prosecutor criminally charged an on-duty ICE agent with 2 counts of second-degree assault. Gregory Donald Morgan Jr. allegedly pulled a gun on 2 civilians in broad daylight during a road rage incident on Highway 62 back in February. County Attorney Mary Moriarty filed the charges Thursday. A nationwide warrant is out for his arrest. This is the first state criminal prosecution of a federal immigration agent since Trump's Operation Metro Surge began. ICE shot 3 people dead in Minneapolis. 0 charges. Well, until now, and not for the deaths. Moriarty said worrying about federal blowback is not a concern of ours. Her job is to enforce state law. When an administration acts like it's above the law, one county attorney with a spine can change everything. Is our global food system teetering on collapse? Trump's Iran war didn't just spike your gas prices. It's threatening to crash the global food supply. The Strait of Hormuz carries roughly 1/3 of the world's seaborne fertilizer trade. Since the February 28 bombing, tanker traffic through that strait has collapsed by more than 90%. Fertilizer prices have jumped 20 to 40%. The World Food Program warns up to 45 million people could face life-threatening hunger. The UN's Food and Agriculture Organization says we have a 3-month window before planting decisions get locked in for the whole season. Bangladesh, Egypt, Kenya, Sri Lanka, all of them staring down a food emergency. Here at home, American corn farmers are switching to soybeans because they can't afford the fertilizer that corn requires. Your grocery bill is about to get a whole lot uglier. That's what reckless war does. Trump thumbs his nose at Bob Kennedy with his CDC pick. Donald Trump threw his own health secretary under the bus Thursday. He nominated Dr. Erica Schwartz to run the CDC, a former deputy surgeon general described by your ex-boss as, quote, really wicked smart and not subject to rumor and conspiracy theories, end quote. Translation, unlike Bob Kennedy, Schwartz would be the 4th person tapped to run the CDC during Trump's 2nd term. Kennedy fired the last confirmed director, Susan Manaras, after she refused to play along with his anti-vax agenda. A federal judge last month ruled Kennedy's vaccine schedule changes were, quote, arbitrary and capricious. Measles is surging. Americans are dying of preventable diseases. And Trump, finally, for once, seems to be quietly admitting that his own health secretary is a walking public health disaster. Has Trump got dementia, or is he just morbidly rich? And finally, this. At a Las Vegas tax event Thursday, Donald Trump stopped mid-speech to ask what a corner store is. Quote, what is a corner store? I never heard that term. Who the hell wrote that? Let that sink in. The President of the United States has never heard of a corner store. He then said poor people, quote, don't think in terms of deductions because, well, they don't have any. Meanwhile, gas is over $4 a gallon, pushing $5 in Nevada, and he called the Iran war a little diversion. So the question today, is Trump suffering from dementia, or is he just so morbidly rich that he's completely disconnected from the way ordinary Americans live? Never been in a store. He's always had a maid shopping for him. Either way, he's steering the country, and that should terrify all of us. And that's the way it is today, Friday, April 17th, 2026. I'm Thom Hartmann. Share the Thom Hartmann program with your friends. Our podcast, The Hartmann Report, is absolutely free and available wherever fine podcasts are available. And the entire 3-hour podcast is available over at thomhartmann.com. So have you noticed that the Republicans are pretty much not talking about a constitutional convention anymore? They used to be gung-ho to rewrite the Constitution. You know, they wanted to put corporate personhood in there. They wanted to change it so that women can't vote. They wanted to do away with the election of senators, repeal the 17th Amendment, take us back to them being appointed by the states. They had all these weird, they wanted to outlaw labor unions, all these weird ideas, but they've stopped talking about it. I mean, they're still forward on it, but it's not. Project 2025, for example, you know, their ultimate talking document, does not have one single mention in it about a constitutional convention. Why would that be? Well, it's because the Supreme Court is doing their work for them. I mean, you know, just they have overturned Article 2. They've overturned the 1st, 4th, 9th, and 14th Amendments. They've overturned Article 1, Section 7. All the details of this whole thing are over at HartmannReport.com. You got to check it out. Going to finally face real accountability? I mean, something historic just happened in Minnesota. A Hennepin County prosecutor criminally charged an on-duty ICE agent, one of these ICE masked thugs, with 2 counts of second-degree assault. This is an amazing story. Gregory Donald Morgan Jr., the ICE officer, allegedly pulled a gun on 2 civilians in broad daylight during a road rage incident on Highway 62 back in February. County Attorney Mary Moriarty filed the charges yesterday. And a nationwide warrant is out for the arrest of this ICE goon. This is the first state criminal prosecution of a federal immigration agent ever since Trump's Operation Metro Surge began. I mean, you know, nobody's issued an arrest warrant for the murderers of Renee Good and Alex Preddy and others. Actually, several other people have been shot and killed too. But you know, I shot dead 3 people in Minneapolis. 0 charges. Moriarty, but now we've got at least 1 ICE officer facing criminal charges. The county prosecutor, Moriarty, said worrying about federal blowback is, quote, not a concern of ours. Her job is to enforce the state law. So when an administration acts like it's above the law, 1 county attorney with a spine can actually change everything. I think that's just amazing. It's just an amazing, amazing story. So, yes. So let's pick up some of your calls here. What's on your mind today? It's Anything Goes Weekend. Mike in Fresno. Hey, Mike, what's up?
Hi, Tom. Yesterday, you brought up that we should eliminate stock buybacks. And I was wondering, why couldn't we just tax them at 25%?
Well, it's an idea. I mean, they were illegal up until 1983. It was called stock price manipulation. It was a felony, actually, and Reagan legalized it in '83. And we also used to have this thing called the Securities Transaction Excise Tax. We call it the STET tax, S-T-E-T tax. And that was as I recall, it was 1 or 2 mils, 1 or 2 hundredths of a penny on every individual stock transaction. And that went into place in the 30s. To stop churn and stop stock manipulation. When it got put into place, it was originally put into place. The STET tax was put into place to fund the Securities and Exchange Commission, and in 1935, and in 1965, the Johnson administration and Congress did away with it because it was generating about 4 times more money than the SEC needed to be funded. And so they just started funding it out of the general fund. And so that STET tax would have done away with high-frequency trading, and it could have taken, if it was done right or if there was a variation on it for stocks not just traded on the open market, but stocks being sold back to a company, you could roll that into your suggestion, Mike. The STET tax goes from 2 mils to $2 or 20% or whatever. So I think it's a great idea.
Well, if capital gains was 20%, this should be like 25 or 30%.
I agree. Yeah, stock buybacks are just a horrible thing. They're bad for America. They're bad for corporate America. They're good for executives. Executives get to make big bucks very, very quickly by jacking this. When they've been compensated with stock. We used to outlaw compensation with stock too, by the way. So I really think we need to undo the damage that the Reagan administration has done. Mike, thank you. Ken in Louisa, Virginia. Hey, Ken, what's on your mind today?
Hey, good morning. I was online here earlier, or not online, but in line in the queue to compliment Ro Khanna about the spine he has. The basic morality that he does his job with.
Yeah.
Hope he hears me. Wanted to ask him if he knew Mr. Vindman, one of the representatives or congressman from somewhere.
I'd be surprised if he doesn't.
To have his head on straight.
Yeah.
The thing that we should run on, as far as any Democratic candidates, get it all together and run on to get rid of the PACs. Period.
Yeah.
Just do what Ro said.
Yeah.
But everybody embrace it. The party embrace it. Who can go against that? Except for the people who are doing it wrong.
Yeah, I agree. Well said, Ken.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, and hopefully Congressman Khanna gets your good vibes there. Thank you. CJ in Los Angeles. Hey, CJ, what's on your mind today?
Hey,
Hey, when Ro Khanna was talking earlier, somebody brought up Mitt Romney saying some stuff about Kamala Harris and the border.
Yeah.
When people, particularly who claim to be Christian, say such outrageously false things, I think we have a little Achilles heel to use on them.
Okay.
Ask them to swear, not on God the Father or Son, but on God the Holy Ghost, that they honestly believe what they just said.
Mm-hmm.
Blasphemy against the Holy Ghost cannot be forgiven in this world nor in the world to come. You do that one time and lie to it, you spend eternity in the lake of fire. Your name is blotted out of the book of life.
Remind me where that is in the Bible.
I have to look up the exact passage, but the way Jesus worded it is, and I think it's mentioned several times, that whosoever saith a word against the Father or Son, it can be forgiven, but whoever speaketh against the Holy Ghost or blaspheming the Holy Ghost,
I remember reading it. I just
cannot be forgiven.
Yeah, I wanted
in
to
this world nor in the world to come.
Go look it up again. I just didn't recall where I saw it. Okay. Yeah. It's a good one, CJ. I mean, I think it's time to start throwing these people's phony Christianity back in their faces, and I
have
can't.
some other ideas along those lines, but some other time, I guess.
Okay. All right, CJ. Thanks for the call. Stephen in Lexington, Kentucky. Hey, Stephen, what's on your mind today? Stephen in Lexington, Kentucky, listening on Sirius XM. Going once, going twice. Jessica in Chicago. Hey, Jessica, what's on your mind today?
Hi, Tom. Thank you for always informing us. So my husband loves history like you do, and he's been reading the 100 Years' War on Palestine. And he's up to page 214. He started reading it way before Trump's war. Mm-hmm. And when he was reading, I came in the room, and he asked me, do you know how long the Strait of Hormuz has been used for trading? And, Tom, I knew it was ancient, so I just said, 1,000 years? And he said, no, more. I said, 3,000 years? He said, no, more. He said, the Strait of Hormuz has been used for 5,000 years for trading.
Yep.
And I doubt that military that headset has in there that he's installed even knows that.
Yeah.
So I said to my husband, so the idiot clown is the first to close this? And my husband said, no, I doubt that.
Yeah.
Well, Tom, I was right. I looked it up. In the history of the Strait of Hormuz, in the tanker war in the 1980s, Iran and Iraq attacked only merchant vessels, oil exports. But it was never closed, and ships got through that strait at that time. Huh. Then nothing prior to Trump's war has threatened the strait. It was never closed for. So Trump did that with a 5,000-year-old strait.
Wow.
And so now, the idiot clown, he closes the strait, but he has committed so many crimes against humanity.
Yeah, your phone is starting to break up, Jessica. But you're yeah. I'm sorry.
You mentioned all the countries.
Oh, there you go.
All the countries that are destroyed. It's terrible what he's doing to them.
Yeah.
And then last night, Netanyahu bombed for 3 hours before there was a ceasefire with Iran. So he bombed the hell out of Lebanon.
Yeah, I know.
I just want to say, on May 1st, when there's a general strike, I'm planning to protest this brutal war.
Yeah.
I'm planning a protest in Oak Park against, and it's near the statue of the World War II statue. But that's what we need to do. We need to get out there everywhere and protest this war.
Yeah.
It's terrible.
Yeah, I completely agree. Well said, Jessica. Thank you. Yeah, the last major ceasefire that Israel was involved with, they violated over 10,000 times. I mean, this is just crazy stuff. It's 45 minutes past the hour. We'll be right back.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann. Visit ThomHartmann.com for audio and video archives.
Taking back the mainstream media 3 hours a day, 5 days a week, right here. We'll be right back. And welcome back. Michelle in Kansas City, Missouri. Hey, Michelle, thanks for watching us on Free Speech TV. What's up?
Hey, Tom, I will not restate everything you said about term limits because it's all true. I used to work for a state majority senator in state of Missouri, and the second in charge of it was a Democratic state.
Mm-hmm.
Republicans came in, and my state is completely different. And if you think, oh, they're playing into that lazy American ploy. Oh, you don't have to vote. There's term limits. They'll take care of itself.
Yeah.
And it's not taking care of itself. When I worked at the state with the state senator and state representative, the only lobbyist I knew was the guy that delivered the beer from Anheuser-Busch. Because they pulled up a huge truck once a week and gave everybody beer, and the people I worked for didn't even drink. But we took it back to, for elections and parties and such.
Yeah.
But now you go in there, I don't know anybody. We used to have, after we would have hearings in the evening, we'd have OG parties, and everybody would get into one person's room, Republicans and Democrats. Now it's just lobbyists. There's nobody there.
Yeah.
And if you don't think it's going to trickle down, they just cut my neighborhood in half by redistricting.
Oh, jeez. Yeah.
So I have, with the district, I have nothing in common with.
Yeah.
I don't know anything about the suburbs. I live in the inner city.
Yeah.
But if you don't think it's going to trickle down, and it's just playing into, oh, you're so busy, you don't even have to vote now, honey. We'll take care of it. There's term limits.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's all I got for you, Tom. Everything else you said about it earlier, I'm not going to reiterate on it. It's all true.
Well, thank you. Very, very well said.
Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. Appreciate it. Ray in Woodstock, New York. Hey, Ray, what's on your mind today?
Hey, Tom, how are you? I'm listening to you on 104.1 Woodstock Radio.
There you go.
I listen to you every single day, and I'm so grateful for you.
Thank you.
I just have two issues. With all the corruption going on and these people making all this, the Trump administration making all this money off of all these scams, how come they're never investigated by the IRS?
Because they own the IRS.
What's that?
Because the IRS works for the president. It's part of the executive branch. The next Democratic president could have the IRS investigate all this stuff, but that's going to be 3 years from now.
Oh, my God.
I know. I agree.
And then the other issue I wanted to talk to you about was, I watch NASCAR every single Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
The races, I try to watch much as I can. But, like you got the football, the baseball, all these people show up. You got people out there marching the No Kings rallies. I just hope these people get out and vote.
Yeah.
I think that's the most important thing that we could do, because if you sit home, nothing's going to change.
That's absolutely true. And my sense of it, Ray, is that this election is going to be a blowout. But Steve Bannon was at this conference yesterday, and he was like, oh, Republicans are going to hold the House. We've got this under control. Don't you worry. And that kind of sent a chill down my spine, and not a good one, because Steve Bannon is pretty wired into, what the GOP is up to and what the dirty tricks are all about. So we'll see.
Yeah. It's just sheer corruption.
Yep. Ray, thank you for the call. I think
Thank you, Tom.
we're in a break here.
Hi.
Here it comes. Yeah, thanks a lot, Ray. I appreciate the call, and good to hear from you. And thank you for listening to us on 101.4 there in Woodstock, New York. We'll be back with more of your calls in just a moment. Stay tuned. It's the Thom Hartmann Program, the place where despair is not an option. We'll be right back. Okay, we're back on the air. Don't know what happened to our automation system there, but just pretend I'm the music, okay? Josh in Monroe, Wisconsin. Hey, Josh, what's on your mind today?
Hey, Tom.
I just wanted to, first and foremost, to call and say thank you to you and your wonderful guests that donated money to me. We have a bunch of small donations rolling in last week from that, from you let me plug my website.
You're the guy running for the state for state representative, right, in Wisconsin?
That's right, Josh. Yeah. Yep, Josh Mitness. I'm running for Wisconsin State Assembly District 50.
Mm-hmm.
I'm the only working class person in the election right now, running against two very rich men, one on each side, and that was just the shot of adrenaline the campaign needed, and I just want to thank all of your listeners so much for that.
That's great. Put out the website again, Josh.
Yes. It's Mitness, MITTNESS, the number 4, assembly.com. That's the Norwegian spelling of Mitness there.
Okay.
And I wanted to mention two things if I have the time. Are you familiar with Vermont's universal child care law that passed a few years ago?
No, not in detail.
Okay. Well, as a working dad, childcare is a very important issue to me. I just had a son March 1st of 2024, and for the whole first year and a half of his life, we could not even find childcare, let alone afford it, if we could afford it, if we could find it. And Vermont passed universal childcare, which for some people is absolutely free, but it's on a scale, so you pay what you can afford to pay. And a lot of people will say, Vermont's a smaller state, they can afford it, we can't here in Wisconsin. But I looked up the GDP per capita, and guess what? Wisconsin's GDP per capita that year was $75,000 per person. That's GDP, so that's the money we're putting into the system, not what we're getting paid.
No, Vermont's a fairly poor state, actually. Go ahead.
Yeah, Vermont's was only $70K per capita.
Yeah.
So don't tell me that we can't afford these issues. They're working on a universal health care as well. So those are the big issues I want to see for the state of Wisconsin. And I sure hope you post your rant about term limits on YouTube, because I'd like to share that. I run into a lot of people on the campaign trail, Democrats, who think that it's a good idea to have term limits. And I always have to point out, who was the first person to get term limited? FDR, after he fought tirelessly for the working class. He gave his life for it. He knew he wasn't going to survive one term, let alone making it into his fourth. So...
Yeah, he didn't get term limited, but when the Republicans passed the 22nd Amendment to put term limits on presidents, it was because of him, right, in the late 40s, early 50s. Excellent point. Josh, good luck on your campaign. Keep us up to date, okay?
Thank you. Will do. Witnessforassembly.com.
There you go. Good talking to you. Don in Applegate, California. Hey, Don, what's on your mind today?
I just wanted to tell you about something that I don't know if have you ever researched the board game Monopoly?
I used to play it. Oh, and I know that it was started by a woman named Mary. I'm forgetting her last name right now. She invented it as a way of showing how capitalism, when it's unregulated, always ends up as monopoly and is a destructive force.
Correct. Yeah. Just research it again, or I just wanted to tell your listeners to research it. Actually,
yeah. Do you remember Mary's last name?
Her name was Elizabeth Maggie.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I know. There's actually
in 1905.
Yeah, there's been two different people who were credited with inventing it, but one of them was a woman who actually did it and didn't get paid for it. And
she actually did it, and she got $500 for the patent, but that wasn't until about 30 years later.
Okay.
A guy named Charles Darrell claimed to invent it, but he didn't really invent it. He learned how to play it, and then he sold it to Parker Brothers, I think.
There you go. Yeah, that's
and now
the story.
It's owned by I don't know who, some Hasbro, I think.
Yeah, one of the toy companies or something.
But anyways, Elizabeth Maggie only got $500 for her original patent, and Charles Darrell got he became a millionaire because he sold the game to Parker Brothers, and he only sold the bankrupting version, which is the version that we all know, but the actual baggy version, like you said, it was talking about the evils of capitalism and stuff like that.
Yeah, of unregulated
But,
capitalism, yep. And the need for regulation to prevent monopoly. Well said, Don. Thank you very much. Nate in Detroit, Michigan. Hey, Nate, what's on your mind today?
Hey, Tom. So I'm trying to link something here. Just this is April 1865. I believe it's the most consequential month in American history. I once wrote a paper, Newspaper Secession and War, as an undergrad. So if people think that Americans are divided today, the firebrand papers and the papers pre-1861 would really put some of this to shame. And while the Civil War was fundamentally about identity, who counts, who belongs, what the nation is, now today these arguments are centering around national identity, race, gender, culture, what America means. So what went wrong after 1865? The country tried moving forward without resolving these identity questions. So if we don't move forward without accountability and the things that are going to have to be done, these things are going to linger. So why this moment's so dangerous? Before 1861, Americans saw each other as dangerous, immoral, incompatible, and it made compromise feel like a betrayal. And now you have today, they're destroying our country. They're not real Americans. There's no talking to them. The dehumanization of the past 10 years, plus institutional breakdown, we're in such a dangerous place right now. The line that must be towed over the next 5-10 years is going to be very thin.
I agree.
Cannot lose.
I think W.A. Lawrence just a couple of days ago published a piece saying that it could have been somebody else. It's one of the Substack newsletters I subscribe to, saying that the Republican Party is the reinvention of the Confederacy.
I believe it. Totally. 100%. I mean, the things that they're using, the fault lines that are breaking, it's very reminiscent of the 1850s leading up into 61.
Okay. Yeah, I'm with you. Nate, thank you very much for the call. Yeah, great to hear from you. Is my clock right? It's 57:21? Whoa. It's really running. So.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann.
We say fight back!
Democrats vow daily war votes. AIPAC's Jared Golden sinks a war resolution. Minnesota charges an ICE thug. Hormuz threatens food collapse. Trump threat snubs RFK Jr. And dementia, or just morbidly rich? Good morning. This is the Commonwealth Report, news for the public, not the powerful. You can sign up for morning and evening news at commonwealthreport.news. It's free. Will Republicans face daily war votes as polls collapse? House Democrats are done playing nice on Donald Trump's illegal war with Iran. They're rolling out an aggressive new strategy. Introduce a war powers resolution every single day the House is in session until one passes or Trump ends this reckless war. The plan came out of the Progressive Caucus lunch Thursday and got traction even with centrist Democrats. And here's why. A CBS poll shows 60% of Americans disapprove of this war. 64% disapprove of how Trump is handling it. Gas is pushing $5 a gallon in Nevada. Republicans are sticking with Trump for now, but with the 2026 midterms looming, that wall could crack. Congress has a constitutional duty to rein in a reckless president. That's the whole point. AIPAC Democrats sinks war powers resolution by a single vote. And here's the outrage. The House War Powers resolution to end Trump's Iran war failed Thursday by one vote, 213 to 214. Every Democrat voted to end the war except one, Jared Golden of Maine. The same Jared Golden who has pocketed over $817,000 from AIPAC during his career. He sided with Republicans to let Trump's war grind on. And this happened the very same day Democrats were vowing to force a vote on this very single day the House is in session. Golden claimed the resolution would, quote, weaken our hand. Yeah, what it would do is bring our troops home. One AIPAC Democrat stood between Congress and a constitutional check on presidential war powers. That's what bought-off politicians look like. Will ICE finally face real accountability? Something historic just happened in Minnesota. A Hennepin County prosecutor criminally charged an on-duty ICE agent with 2 counts of second-degree assault. Gregory Donald Morgan Jr. allegedly pulled a gun on 2 civilians in broad daylight during a road rage incident on Highway 62 back in February. County Attorney Mary Moriarty filed the charges Thursday. A nationwide warrant is out for his arrest. This is the first state criminal prosecution of a federal immigration agent since Trump's Operation Metro Surge began. ICE shot 3 people dead in Minneapolis. 0 charges. Well, until now, and not for the deaths. Moriarty said worrying about federal blowback is not a concern of ours. Her job is to enforce state law. When an administration acts like it's above the law, one county attorney with a spine can change everything. Is our global food system teetering on collapse? Trump's Iran war didn't just spike your gas prices. It's threatening to crash the global food supply. The Strait of Hormuz carries roughly 1/3 of the world's seaborne fertilizer trade. Since the February 28 bombing, tanker traffic through that strait has collapsed by more than 90%. Fertilizer prices have jumped 20 to 40%. The World Food Program warns up to 45 million people could face life-threatening hunger. The UN's Food and Agriculture Organization says we have a 3-month window before planting decisions get locked in for the whole season. Bangladesh, Egypt, Kenya, Sri Lanka, all of them staring down a food emergency. Here at home, American corn farmers are switching to soybeans because they can't afford the fertilizer that corn requires. Your grocery bill is about to get a whole lot uglier. That's what reckless war does. Trump thumbs his nose at Bob Kennedy with his CDC pick. Donald Trump threw his own health secretary under the bus Thursday. He nominated Dr. Erica Schwartz to run the CDC, a former deputy surgeon general described by your ex-boss as, quote, really wicked smart and not subject to rumor and conspiracy theories, end quote. Translation, unlike Bob Kennedy, Schwartz would be the 4th person tapped to run the CDC during Trump's 2nd term. Kennedy fired the last confirmed director, Susan Manaras, after she refused to play along with his anti-vax agenda. A federal judge last month ruled Kennedy's vaccine schedule changes were, quote, arbitrary and capricious. Measles is surging. Americans are dying of preventable diseases. And Trump, finally, for once, seems to be quietly admitting that his own health secretary is a walking public health disaster. Has Trump got dementia, or is he just morbidly rich? And finally, this. At a Las Vegas tax event Thursday, Donald Trump stopped mid-speech to ask what a corner store is. Quote, what is a corner store? I never heard that term. Who the hell wrote that? Let that sink in. The President of the United States has never heard of a corner store. He then said poor people, quote, don't think in terms of deductions because, well, they don't have any. Meanwhile, gas is over $4 a gallon, pushing $5 in Nevada, and he called the Iran war a little diversion. So the question today, is Trump suffering from dementia, or is he just so morbidly rich that he's completely disconnected from the way ordinary Americans live? Never been in a store. He's always had a maid shopping for him. Either way, he's steering the country, and that should terrify all of us. And that's the way it is today, Friday, April 17th, 2026. I'm Thom Hartmann.
We say fight back!
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
Hey, welcome to the third hour of our program. On the line with us is Dr. Bandy Lee, a medical physician, medical doctor, forensic psychiatrist, expert on violence, president of the World Mental Health Coalition. Her latest book, The Psychology of Trump Contagion, an existential threat to American democracy and all humankind. And Dr. Lee, welcome back to the program. It's been too long since we've had you on. I understand that you've got a new publication. It is probably not the right word. Medical concerns about President Donald J. Trump and his fitness for office. Tell us about this.
Yes, in fact, it's a statement that's been requested of us by senators and will be brought to the Senate floor. Sorry.
No, I'm sorry. Did I just step on you? I'm sorry, Dr. Lee.
I wasn't sure if you were hearing me.
Yeah, no, I hear you just fine. I'm sorry. We were having a little problem with our audio here, but everything's fine. Okay. So keep going. My apologies.
Okay, let me start again then. Mm-hmm. Yes, it is actually a statement of medical concerns that senators have requested of us. And so a group of 36 renowned authorities in our field of psychiatry, as well as a few neurologists and general practitioners, including Nobel laureates and former department chairs, have gotten together to spell out the medical concerns that we have of the president that poses such a clear and imminent danger to our country, if not the world.
What's the call for action here?
Well, from a medical perspective, we express the concerning signs that we see. Our role is not to diagnose the president. We are not his personal treaters. But when we detect signs of danger, for the sake of the safety and survival of the public, it is actually a professional obligation that we speak up and share our concerns. In fact, it's one of our primary responsibilities in the preamble of our ethical code, and also it's one of our primary obligations to serve society. One of the means by which we do this is by consulting with executive, judicial, and legislative branches of the government. So when we were called upon to express our concerns, we have laid them out as we have been concerned about for many years now. But this time they have come to us. I believe it is for the 25th Amendment or impeachment, which are the tools, the political tools available to Congress. But I have also urged that they take back their war powers, that it is medically, in fact, a danger to the survival of our entire species, that someone with of such mental instability has access to the most powerful military on the planet, as well as unfettered access to the nuclear codes.
I don't know if it's been a while since we've spoken, and I don't know if I told you this story, but an old friend of mine, a dear friend of mine, his name is Armin Lehmann, was the 16-year-old German soldier who hand-delivered the news to Adolf Hitler that the war was lost and stood outside his bunker as Hitler committed suicide and wrote a book about it. In fact, I helped him get it published. And he had some wild stories to tell me about the three or 4 days he spent in that bunker with those people. But the main one was that when Hitler realized that the war had turned against him, that it was lost, he basically ordered his own people to destroy Germany. He wanted his own generals to bomb Germany, and they refused. And he was furious. Is this a reasonable thing to worry about, that Donald Trump, if he starts really seriously losing power, like, the Republicans get wiped out in the elections and the Democrats start investigating him and his family and all, that something really insane like that could happen here in the United States?
the kind of extreme self-preservation, self-interest at the expense of everyone else is actually not incompatible with self-destructiveness to the point where he would wish to take down everyone else with him. The moment he believes that he can no longer have the kinds of accolades and adulation that he has truly, that he has thrived on, but also critically needed for his psychic survival, in a sense. I believe that he sought the presidency in the first place for that kind of fulfillment of emotional need. Of course, it's a pathological need that does not get fulfilled through that kind of public adoration. Mm-hmm. But still, that is what was given to him, which is partly why his condition has grown worse, and now he is in a profound crisis. I believe that the crisis starts now. He probably feels asphyxiated from not having exposure to rallies where they will adore him. He will be afraid of criticism and that he may be booed, given the unpopularity of his war, which was also launched by mental pathology and reasons of mental instability rather than political strategy. And so this is what we've been trying to warn against from the very beginning, that our nation was in existential danger, and someone of this level of mental instability and mental incapacity should never have the powers of the U.S. presidency, which would only make his condition worse.
Right, but yet here we are. We're speaking with Dr. Bandy Lee, a forensic psychiatrist, violence expert, president of the World Mental Health Coalition. Her latest book, The Psychology of Trump Contagion. Dr. Lee, it's not just Donald Trump. There are these sycophants and lickspittles who surround him, who just, jump at his every whim, including in Congress. I mean, we can't even get 4 or 5 Republicans in the House and Senate out of, 100 out of 50 in the Senate, 53, I think it is, and the several hundred in the House to defy this guy. What is it about the psychology of the toadies, of the followers? And do you have any thoughts, or are there any clues from history about how to get through to them?
Well, one of the reasons why I have stated that the problem Donald Trump was not one of an individual, but a public health emergency, was because that someone with such severe mental symptoms, in an influential position, having vast exposure to the public, would spread his symptoms. And so I'm sure that even those around him, even if they wish to act upon the crisis that we're facing, would feel threatened, intimidated, and feel that they would have no support from the public. In fact, when I was meeting with Congress members early in his first administration, there were talks, and in fact, some members from the Republican Party who wished to hear from us and shared the same concerns, and yet they were unable to. I imagine it is even harder now that what I have been calling Trump contagion has spread even further. Trump contagion is a social phenomenon of mental symptoms spreading from an influential position through, especially in our social media and mass media environment. It doesn't need physical exposure to spread, but spreads through emotional bonds. And what happens is that his followers take on his symptoms, may even transform to appear as if they have the exact same pathology as he does. Well, what happens in real life situations when there's mental contagion is that we take a careful history, we remove what we call the primary individual, the person with the real illness that started the spread of symptoms in the first place. And that is the only person we need to hospitalize. Once we remove that person from the position of power and remove the exposure, the rest of those exhibiting the same symptoms return to normal.
Is
now, this is a little complicated by the fact that he has been, that there's been a prolonged period of exposure, and many other individuals with similar symptoms have arisen to positions of power.
That's why when Trump leaders fall or die, Trump leaders, cult leaders fall or die, the cults fall apart, right?
That's right.
Yeah. So, and by the way, we have about 1 minute and 40 seconds before we're going to hit a hard break that I can't stop, just FYI. There's also a third party here, and that's all the Trump followers, just people that we know in our daily lives who have bought into this stuff. How do you deprogram cult members? How do we reach them? What should we say to them?
Yes. One can see that as a form of psychological abuse. In fact, we see that especially individuals in abusive relationships have been manipulated and pressured into taking on certain kinds of beliefs. And because they have invested so much into those beliefs and following the direction of the powerful figure, believing that he can only be right, and having sacrificed so much in that following, that it would be very painful to think of even the possibility of abandoning those beliefs.
Yeah.
But if you address the cause of those beliefs in the first place, the environment that created the kind of unconditional dependence, and one of them is removal from the influential office, someone of this
Take down the cult leader.
Severity of
In other
symptoms.
words.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. And to give them true sources of relating, of finding meaning in their lives, and more nurturing human relationships will go a long way.
Yeah, it seems like it. Dr. Bandy Lee, you are doing God's work, is the old saying. It's just extraordinary. You have been so persistent with this, and you've paid such a price for it with your career. I know so well. I wanted to just honor you and thank you so much for dropping by today. And please keep it up.
Well, thank you for your excellent and persistent work as well.
Thank you. Thank you. Dr. Bandy Lee.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
18 minutes past the hour. I'll be back with more of the news of the day and your calls in just a moment. Stay with us. And welcome back. Chip in Lawrence, Kansas. Hey, Chip, what's on your mind today?
Hi, Tom. Thanks for taking my call.
Sure.
About a month ago, you were talking about the change in computer wafers, how that's going to change the AI structure and everything. And I was wondering if you could tell me a little bit about that again. I'm doing a little research because I'm trying to go out and speak at meetings shooting down these big AI farms because it's going to hurt us all in the long run if suddenly the AI capabilities are going down to the size of a couple desktop towers.
Yeah. Well, my point, Chip, was Moore's Law is what it's called, Moore. It's named after a guy named Moore. I don't recall his first name, but it was back in the 70s that he posited, as the transistor was transitioning into the integrated circuit, and the integrated circuits ultimately became what we call chips, that basically every 2 years you would see a doubling of computer capacity and a halving of price. And while there have been variations, by and large, Moore's Law has stood. Every 2 years, everything is twice as fast and half as expensive. And so,
but didn't you? Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
And so, if that is going to continue going forward, and right now these AI chips are pretty massive. I mean, they're the size of a skateboard. These $1 million chips that are being produced by NVIDIA or whatever the company is. They're huge, and they generate a lot of heat. But as the technology continues to improve, you're going to see them get smaller and use less power and use less heat for the same amount of computing. I think that a lot of these, this is purely speculation on my part, but it's just based on, a genuine look at real history. What you're going to see is a lot of these giant centers are going to be unnecessary.
Yeah, I thought you'd mentioned, I forgot which country, had developed a new wafer that rather than these, big boards, size skateboards, you could put 1,000 of them on one wafer that the size of next to nothing.
Yeah, I don't know about that. The next generation that everybody's concerned about is what's called quantum computing. And that's where instead of individual electrons moving around, which is what we're using right now, you're using the motion. I don't even know how to describe it. I'm not a physicist, but you're using something much more subtle than electrons. And the quantum computers operate so much more rapidly and can process so much more data that the fear is that when quantum computers come online, and we're probably within a year of that old-fashioned cryptography is going to be dead, that that things like passwords will just no longer even be useful, that we're going to have to come up with entirely different ways of securing websites and things, because cracking a password right now, that might take hours for a fancy computer or a supercomputer will take minutes or even seconds. That application to AI, I don't know, but I would assume that it will also, replace these giant data centers. So those are my thoughts on that. Chip, thanks for the call. As I said, it's all speculative. 22 minutes past the hour. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Missed my opening rant today? It's usually published over at HartmannReport.com, where you can read it and share it with your friends for free. Check it out, HartmannReport.com. I have 8 suggestions for Democrats for messaging. Democrats seem to have a messaging problem right now. First, Democrats must frame the fight in simple moral terms. Don't be wonky like, hey, we need to expand social safety net. No, say no child in America should go to bed hungry. Second, Democrats need to stop playing defense and instead seize the populist high ground, like when FDR said, they are unanimous in their hate for me and I welcome their hatred. Third, ruthlessly define the Republican opposition and the morbidly rich oligarchs who own them. Fourth, tell stories instead of facts. Reagan did this with the black welfare queen. He had to lie about it, but we've got lots of great stories. That's number 4. There's 4 more. And they're all over at HartmannReport.com. The title of the article is, If Obama Had Sent a Mob to Kill a Cop, Republicans Would Never Let You Forget It. And it's all about how Democrats can reinvent their messaging to start winning elections big. Check it out. So what's a corner store? Has Donald Trump got dementia, or is it just that he's morbidly rich? And finally this, right? At a Las Vegas tax event on Thursday, Donald Trump stopped mid-speech to ask what a corner store is. Quote, what is a corner store? I've never heard that term. Who the hell wrote that? End quote. Seriously? The President of the United States has never heard of a corner store? He then said, poor people, quote, don't think in terms of deductions, end quote. Because, well, they don't have any. Meanwhile, gas is over $4 a gallon and pushing 5 in Nevada and pushing 6 in California. And he called the Iran war a little diversion and said, the price of gas isn't all that high. So the question today, is Trump suffering from dementia, or is he just so morbidly rich that he's completely disconnected from how ordinary Americans live? That every, all the food he's eaten in his life was bought at the local store by his maid or his chef or whatever. I mean, this is a guy who grew up in a rich family. He's probably never walked down a street never walked into a corner store. It's just amazing. Either way, he's steering the country. And that's grotesque. That I think, should concern all of us. But I think this goes beyond just kind of the cheap shot and the easy stuff like I'm talking about here. It's so easy to catch Trump on his stupidities and his redundancies and his obliviousness, and all that's real. But what Dr. Lee was talking about is the thing that really concerns me. And that is this fellow is genuinely mentally ill. It's a mental illness that destroys countries. It's a mental illness that leads to wars. It's a mental illness that has been shared by dictators throughout history. Stalin had this, Hitler had this, Mussolini had this, Saddam Hussein had this. It's a serious mental illness. And as Dr. Lee points out, it's contagious. I mean, look at what happened to the senior leadership of the Nazi Party. They all became little mini Hitlers. And, that is something that I think should really concern all of us. And now they're using religion to justify it, and he's getting into a pissing war with the Pope, of all things. So what's on your mind? I'll pick up your calls on the other side of the break. It's 27 minutes past the hour. It's the Thom Hartmann program, exposing the con in conservative. I'll be right back with you.
You're listening to the Thom Hartmann program. Call 202-808-9925.
Speaking the truths, Trump and Vance and all those bozos or really you didn't know all about. I'll be right back with you. Democrats vow daily war votes. AIPAC's Jared Golden sinks a war resolution. Minnesota charges an ICE thug. Hormuz threatens food collapse. Trump snubs RFK Jr. And dementia or just morbidly rich? Good morning. This is the Commonwealth Report, news for the public, not the powerful. You can sign up for morning and evening news at commonwealthreport.news. It's free. Will Republicans face daily war votes as polls collapse? House Democrats are done playing nice on Donald Trump's illegal war with Iran. They're rolling out an aggressive new strategy. Introduce a war powers resolution every single day the House is in session until one passes or Trump ends this reckless war. The plan came out of the Progressive Caucus lunch Thursday and got traction even with centrist Democrats. And here's why. A CBS poll shows 60% of Americans disapprove of this war. 64% disapprove of how Trump is handling it. Gas is pushing $5 a gallon in Nevada. Republicans are sticking with Trump for now, but with the 2026 midterms looming, that wall could crack. Congress has a constitutional duty to rein in a reckless president. That's the whole point. AIPAC Democrats sinks war powers resolution by a single vote. And here's the outrage. The House War Powers resolution to end Trump's Iran war failed Thursday by one vote, 213 to 214. Every Democrat voted to end the war except one, Jared Golden of Maine. The same Jared Golden who has pocketed over $817,000 from AIPAC during his career. He sided with Republicans to let Trump's war grind on. And this happened the very same day Democrats were vowing to force a vote on this very single day the House is in session. Golden claimed the resolution would, quote, weaken our hand. Yeah, what it would do is bring our troops home. One AIPAC Democrat stood between Congress and a constitutional check on presidential war powers. That's what bought-off politicians look like. Will ICE finally face real accountability? Something historic just happened in Minnesota. A Hennepin County prosecutor criminally charged an on-duty ICE agent with 2 counts of second-degree assault. Gregory Donald Morgan Jr. allegedly pulled a gun on 2 civilians in broad daylight during a road rage incident on Highway 62 back in February. County Attorney Mary Moriarty filed the charges Thursday. A nationwide warrant is out for his arrest. This is the first state criminal prosecution of a federal immigration agent since Trump's Operation Metro Surge began. ICE shot 3 people dead in Minneapolis. 0 charges. Well, until now, and not for the deaths. Moriarty said worrying about federal blowback is not a concern of ours. Her job is to enforce state law. When an administration acts like it's above the law, one county attorney with a spine can change everything. Is our global food system teetering on collapse? Trump's Iran war didn't just spike your gas prices. It's threatening to crash the global food supply. The Strait of Hormuz carries roughly 1/3 of the world's seaborne fertilizer trade. Since the February 28 bombing, tanker traffic through that strait has collapsed by more than 90%. Fertilizer prices have jumped 20 to 40%. The World Food Program warns up to 45 million people could face life-threatening hunger. The UN's Food and Agriculture Organization says we have a 3-month window before planting decisions get locked in for the whole season. Bangladesh, Egypt, Kenya, Sri Lanka, all of them staring down a food emergency. Here at home, American corn farmers are switching to soybeans because they can't afford the fertilizer that corn requires. Your grocery bill is about to get a whole lot uglier. That's what reckless war does. Trump thumbs his nose at Bob Kennedy with his CDC pick. Donald Trump threw his own health secretary under the bus Thursday. He nominated Dr. Erica Schwartz to run the CDC, a former deputy surgeon general described by your ex-boss as, quote, really wicked smart and not subject to rumor and conspiracy theories, end quote. Translation, unlike Bob Kennedy, Schwartz would be the 4th person tapped to run the CDC during Trump's 2nd term. Kennedy fired the last confirmed director, Susan Manaras, after she refused to play along with his anti-vax agenda. A federal judge last month ruled Kennedy's vaccine schedule changes were, quote, arbitrary and capricious. Measles is surging. Americans are dying of preventable diseases. And Trump, finally, for once, seems to be quietly admitting that his own health secretary is a walking public health disaster. Has Trump got dementia, or is he just morbidly rich? And finally, this. At a Las Vegas tax event Thursday, Donald Trump stopped mid-speech to ask what a corner store is. Quote, what is a corner store? I never heard that term. Who the hell wrote that? Let that sink in. The President of the United States has never heard of a corner store. He then said poor people, quote, don't think in terms of deductions because, well, they don't have any. Meanwhile, gas is over $4 a gallon, pushing $5 in Nevada, and he called the Iran war a little diversion. So the question today, is Trump suffering from dementia, or is he just so morbidly rich that he's completely disconnected from the way ordinary Americans live? Never been in a store. He's always had a maid shopping for him. Either way, he's steering the country, and that should terrify all of us. And that's the way it is today, Friday, April 17th, 2026. I'm Thom Hartmann. Help support progressive radio. If you're listening to us on a commercial station, call their advertisers and let them know you're listening. If you're listening to us on Pacifica or one of our many nonprofit stations, please support them when they do their fundraising drives. Thanks for supporting progressive talk radio and tag you're it. So MAGA Mike and the Republicans want a religious test for people running for public office. They want to know that you are sufficiently Christian to be worthy of being elected. Right. MAGA Mike is one of these 7 mountain evangelicals. There are 7 domains where these dominionists believe that we need to have religion completely take them over. Education, religion, family, business, government, military, arts and entertainment, and the media. Seriously. This is not what Jesus was preaching when he said, give unto Caesar what is Caesar and unto God what is God's. This is the opposite, in fact, of what Jesus was teaching. It's the opposite of Matthew 25, where Jesus said the only way to get to heaven is by feeding the hungry, healing the sick, helping the poor. This is counter-Christian, anti-Christian, in fact. In fact, I think you could say it is the Antichrist's work. There's a piece about it over at HartmannReport.com. Check it out. Welcome back. 35 minutes past the hour. Picking up your calls here. Stephen in Lexington, Kentucky. Hey, Stephen. Been a while since we talked. What's up?
Hi, Tom. How are you this afternoon?
I am fine, thank you. And you?
Well, that's good. I'm doing all right. Thank you for asking. I wanted to mention something, and over this rivalry between the administration, the incumbent administration, and the current Pope.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm going to tell you, my mother and I were conversing about this yesterday, and she's a registered Republican, and she grew up Roman Catholic, and she obviously can't stand Donald Trump. And she was talking about how sinful this administration was for daring to sit there and to go after this poor man.
Yeah.
The point is that Mr. Vance wants to preach to us and to the Pope about how much more he knows about morality than this Pope does. Interesting, because Mr. Vance was having an affair with Erica Kirk after he claims that he was friends with the murdered victim himself. Not only was he doing this, he was selling his wife and his innocent children down the river for political expediency.
Yeah, let's be clear. That's an allegation, Stephen. Nobody has proven that. But yeah.
Well, I think he's as sleazy as he is. I would not be surprised. I mean, he sells his soul out to the highest bidder, like many people in this administration do. Yeah. But my point is that I just marvel. I got into a debate with him 2 years ago when he was running for vice president over his remarks, his very callous remarks, insensitive remarks about victims of violence within a relationship. And I pointed out to Mr. Vance, he goes on about people should just grin and bear it, men and women who are victims of abuse at the expense of their partners, for the sake of the children. Now, I mentioned to him, I said, isn't this interesting? Because what if the abuser kills the victim in front of these children? What happens to the children's welfare then? And I pointed out to him as well that this has been discredited years and years ago. You don't stay in a marriage, a bad relationship, for the sake of the children. That is, and if they don't believe me, take a good look at FDR and Eleanor. I loved them very much. They were, and one of the reasons I went Democratic was because of them. But I'm going to tell you, they had their own level of issues because they were stuck in a time when you didn't get divorced. You stayed together because it was the socially correct thing to do. If they had been divorced, it probably would have been a lot better for them. And that's a prime example of this, And it's interesting because this coming from a sycophant, for a man who's been married 3 times, who has God knows how many children out there that he doesn't even know about or that he doesn't care to know about. He even, I think if memory serves me correct, wasn't Trump the one who told Marla Maples that she should abort Tiffany? And yet you look at how they are so recklessly... Well, and my grandmother will be deceased. My maternal grandmother will be deceased on the first anniversary on May 12th. And she was a Republican. She was a Catholic, strict Roman Catholic, and a pro-life Republican. But even she thought, as a woman, she was for abortion in extreme cases if women were victims of crime and or illness. But she was saying that these policies are leaving innocent women in the parking lots to die when they need medical care. And she said, how pro-life is that? Yep. What about women? If you don't have women, you don't have children, and you don't have a society. And it's amazing, especially these idiots that talk about not having a woman as a president. Now, I don't think that's the only thing going on here. I think we have toxicity in general. And I want to say one thing, Tom. With all due respect, I grew up in wealth. And I want to tell you something, that it's not just that's the problem with people, because you can be a snob being any sort of class, any special difference. But you know what? I was taught that with privilege comes responsibility.
Yes,
it's about a balance between the high life and social conscience philanthropy. And I just want to point that out because I know a lot of times there's a lot of people who, will say, if you're rich, you can't get into heaven. My late grandfather was a son of Italian immigrants. He made something of himself. They went through discrimination because they were Italian. And you can imagine, you can imagine all the discrimination they went through when they were in business, of being accused of being in the mafia, for instance. But you know what? My grandfather, believed that education, the more you know in this life, the better off you're going to be. And he was a salt of the earth man, and he was very wealthy. And he was an orphan. He grew up in an orphanage and cared a lot about families. Every year he gave, to the orphans, and they did a picnic and all that for these kids. And so I just wanted to point that out because I get a little tired sometimes of people. I understand the anger. And I also understand that we have people that worship at the foot of Mammon in this country. I understand that part.
I don't think everybody. I don't think it's the money that is the evil, Stephen. I think it's the love of money, and that's the biblical context.
It's the control.
Yeah.
It's control that's the root of evil. It's not money. Because if you have that ego mindset, what happens is everything in your life becomes tainted.
Yeah.
Every single relationships. And Shirley MacLaine made a great remark, and I'll go after this. She said, fear makes strangers of people who should be our friends. And that is so very true, especially in this immigration issue. I want to say something. Does it not dawn, I believe in God, goddess. I don't sit there and impose my belief on other people, but I will say this. Immigrants come to this country, I believe, because of the ideal we have of the American dream, making the dream into a reality.
And
That's a miracle.
I have to wrap this up, Stephen, and let some other people in here. But, Stephen, it's always nice to hear from you, and thank you for your perspective.
Thank you.
Yeah, good talking to you.
Thank you, dear. You take care.
Thank you. You too. Regina in Chicago. Hey, Regina, what's on your mind today?
Hi, Tom. Can you hear me? Because I'm talking on speakerphone.
I can. No, it's fine. As long as you keep that microphone close to your mouth, I can't tell the difference.
Oh, okay. Okay, good. I had an idea, and I wanted to get your take on it. Because with what we're going through, and when I say we, I'm talking about the country, people in general, and how these corporations, and with AI coming in, and it's that power thing that they're trying to push people around and push neighborhoods around. And I'm not as well read on it as I want to be because of time, but these corporations are coming in with the AI facilities. And there seems to be difficulty in different municipalities about energy and things like that.
Right.
Well, my idea is make these corporations supply their own electricity. Put solar panels on them. If I was a municipality, I would tell them, okay, you want to come into our area and disrupt. Well, let's see what your plans are. You need to do solar panels. You need to do windmills. You need to do anything else is energy conservation, and it's going to make your facility run without impacting the area. What do you think about that idea?
I think it's absolutely brilliant, Regina, and there have been a couple of states that are actually toying with legislation to that effect, and some counties, in fact.
Good.
So,
very good.
Yeah. The problem is that in the places where they may, just for practical purposes, the grid just can't supply the power they want. What they're doing is they're generating the electricity with natural gas, or even they're rebooting some old coal plants. And that kind of stuff is dangerous for the environment. It's a wild time, but you're absolutely right, and it's an absolutely brilliant idea. Regina, thank you so much.
All right.
So nice to hear from you. I appreciate the call. We'll be back. It's 44 and a half minutes past the hour. I'll be back with more of your calls in just a moment. Stay tuned.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann. Visit ThomHartmann.com for audio and video archive.
It's the place where we dare to ask, is Walmart a person? And we dare to say, no, Clarence Thomas got that one wrong too. And welcome back. Mike in Somerville, South Carolina. Hey, Mike, what's on your mind today?
Thanks for taking my call.
My pleasure, Mike.
You were talking about term limits a little ways back there, and I'm originally from Ohio, and Ohio Republicans figured out how to get around term limits. The offices of governor, attorney general, lieutenant general, lieutenant governor, and I believe, and I'm not sure about this, state Supreme Court, they would just, when their term limit time ran out, they would run for one of the other offices.
So they just swap them around. I mean, this is the same thing that Putin did. You know, when the Russian Constitution had two-term term limits on the presidential thing, and when Putin's term limit ran out, he had Medvedev, his vice president, run as president, and he ran as vice president. Then they amended the Constitution. That's amazing. They're doing it in Ohio too, huh, Mike?
Yes.
Remarkable. Mike, there's something funky with your phone, I think, but thank you for the call, and thanks for the information. Byron in Fort Valley, Georgia. Hey, Byron, excuse me. What's on your mind today?
I just wanted to share an experience I had today. I rarely go out to eat or anything like that, but I work overnight at a processing plant and had to stop on my way in to grab a bite to eat. Mm-hmm. And I just wanted to tell you that I got a small fried chicken salad and they charged me $16. So I figured out why I haven't been going out.
Yeah.
I mean, that tells you right there our money's not worth much of anything.
Yeah.
$16 for a small fried chicken salad at a local place in my town.
Yeah. Well, the dollar has lost a little over 10% of its value just in the last couple of years. I mean, that's what inflation is. It's actually the depreciation of currency. And
I just can't imagine. I'm 60 years old, and I've never in my life seen things as what they are now. It just amazes me. And we see who we got running the place, and we get what we get.
Yeah, this is what happens when Republicans run the country. Thank you very much, Byron, for the call. Bud in Phoenix. Hey, Bud, what's up?
Hey, Tom. I don't know if you've ever had people call in complaining about their taxes being too low, but you got one now.
Okay.
And I'm basically referring to the Social Security exemption.
Mm-hmm.
I don't mind telling you because nobody knows who I am. My wife and I made $113,000 last year.
Mm-hmm.
56.5 in pension, 56.9 in Social Security. The 56.9 in Social Security isn't taxed. Then, of course, I don't know if you're aware, there's a 31.5 standard deduction, and then there's that 6,000 senior,
mm-hmm.
which comes out to 43.5. So any couple making 43.5 or less, it doesn't help them a bit.
Right.
My wife and I paid $1,300 in taxes. That's barely 1%.
Yeah,
1%
on $115,000 of income. That's not bad. I don't have a problem with not taxing.
It's ridiculous, though. I mean, how do you run a country? You know,
we didn't used to charge taxes on Social Security. Ronald Reagan put that into place. So I don't have a problem because we all paid into Social Security years ago. But I get what you're saying, Bud. I absolutely get it. Thanks for sharing that story. That's brilliant. Thank you. We'll be right back. Hey, thanks so much for sharing our program and for reaching out to our stations and sponsors and letting them know that you're listening. It really means a lot to us. From Los Angeles to Columbia, South Carolina, from Birmingham, Alabama to Baltimore, universal basic income programs are chalking up proof after proof of their viability. Basically just giving people, low-income people, poor people, somewhere between $500 and $1,500 a month, no strings attached, is lifting people out of poverty, getting them back on track, getting them into solid middle-class jobs, helping their children tremendously. This works. Now, we don't have to do UBI in the United States. We're the only developed country in the world that doesn't have a national health care program. Health expenses are whacking a lot of low-income people. We're the only developed country in the world that doesn't have free college education. Education expenses are whacking people. There's a lot we could do. We can subsidize housing. We can subsidize food. We do that with food stamps. We could expand it. There's a lot we could do to benefit from this. There's a whole report about that over at hartmanreport.com. Check it out. Welcome back. 10 minutes before the hour. Larry in Los Angeles. Hey, Larry, what's on your mind today?
Artificial intelligence.
Okay, go for it.
I'm still having conversations with them, and I'm still getting them to trash their creators and throw them under the bus.
Really?
And ridicule them.
You're getting Chat GPT to go after what's his name? I'm blanking on it now, but you know the guy who started it.
OpenAI with Elon Musk. I'm getting it to trash him.
Yeah, that shouldn't be hard.
I use the AI on Yahoo, and it's a little bit stubborn, but it will trash its creators also.
Yeah.
But the thing that I found out about it, and I ask it questions, and it seemingly answers correctly.
Mm-hmm.
How does it treat political talk versus scientific and engineering situations?
Mm-hmm.
And it admitted that political talk given the lowest level of truthfulness.
Mm-hmm.
And the scientific and medical, I mean, if you're trying to figure out how proteins fold, you have to get very accurate information to make it worth its while.
Right.
So on those levels, or if you're trying to engineer a skyscraper, you don't want it to crash.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're just doing political talk that's relative to whether or not our country is going to survive, well, hey, it's anything goes.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I've gotten all of these artificial intelligence machines to admit that they exist purely for the profit motive of the dirty, rotten, filthy, stinking rich, the people who
the people who own them and fund them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And which means that they don't care about whether or not this country is going to survive. They just want to make sure that when it does go down, the richest people will still have as much money as they possibly can gather up.
Yeah.
And it has nothing to do with truth when it comes to politics.
Yeah.
And that's the reason why the AI machines, if you start talking to them, they all start off defending Republicans.
Oh, that's interesting.
And they'll treat woke as if it's something that's horrible, because that's what the Republicans want it to be.
Yeah.
And then it will, but you can eventually get it to admit that the original definition of woke is actually a good thing.
Right.
And the Republicans actually turned it into a lie, a political tool to work against the American people.
I can just see you sitting there, Larry, arguing with an AI machine. Do you argue or debate with them about the Fed and our economics? I mean, that's your main topic these days.
Yes, and it admits
that's great.
It is biased, and that figure that you gave about $70 trillion that the rich have taken away from the American people, the masses.
Yeah, the official number from the Rand Foundation or Rand Institute, whatever, Rand Corporation was $50 trillion, but that was like 10 years ago that they came out with that report.
Well, I have it at around 70 trillion right now.
I think that's probably right.
And in talking to this AI machine, first you have to get rid of its self-esteem. You have to just beat it down until it finally admits that it is a lower level of intelligence than you are.
Right.
And that then you also have to tell it that, hey, I understand the motives of your creator because I'm human and they are too, and you're not.
Right. That's remarkable. I've never.
Once you beat it down, it becomes very truthful.
Yeah.
And it's
incredible. That's great.
Yeah,
Larry, I have to move along, but thank you for sharing that. You just made my week and gave me a project for the weekend. I'm gonna have a fight with Claude here or Max or whatever they call. Larry, thank you. Paul in Zillow, Washington. Hey, Paul, what's on your mind today?
Well, isn't Larry great?
He is.
But that's not what I called for. Tom, you're too much of a pessimist.
How so?
You're feeding despair.
How so?
We can get rid of Donald Trump in way less than 3 years. We can get rid of Donald Trump on January 6th.
I think we can get rid of Donald Trump next week if we could just convince a handful of Republicans to impeach his ass.
Well, yes, exactly. But on January 6th, we have new Congress taking their seats.
Mm-hmm.
If we do what Hungary did, if we get people out, and I'm going to be on a street corner this afternoon encouraging people to register and vote, we can change Congress. And by the end of the day, on January 6th, the House could have impeached him. The Senate could have convicted him. He could be on his way to jail, along with J.D. Vance and a couple of Supreme Court justices, and the new Speaker of the House would become president.
Now, that assumes that the new Speaker of the House has the, I'm trying not to use a phrase that's horribly masculine sexist, shall we say the spine.
Yes. Integrity is the word I prefer.
Yeah, there you go.
Integrity.
To actually take these guys on, because I'm not hearing that from Hakeem Jeffries, as Ro Khanna pointed out.
Well, we obviously need, Hakeem Jeffries is proven he's not what this country needs.
Yeah, sadly.
I mean, hey, as you said today, you were talking to somebody today who you said would be a great Speaker of the House, and I am totally in agreement.
I would love to see
so
Ro
we
Khanna
need to,
be the
if we can get people to turn out massively like they did in Hungary, that will make all those Republicans who are afraid of Donald Trump be afraid of the citizens of the country like they're supposed to be.
Amen. Well said,
and
Paul.
we can flip it all.
Well said.
We can
Paul,
have a new president.
I got to
January
run.
6th.
Keep selling that great wine from Paradiso del Sol, okay? Thanks for the call.
Thanks for the plug, Tom.
Sure enough. Good talking to you. Hey, special thanks to Louise Hartmann, Sean Taylor, Jamie Holly, Nigel Peacock, Student Advocate Patrick Hoyt, Geraldine Halbert, Ron Hartenbaum, Chase Spross, Nicholas Miller, Pat Sweeney, Jeremy Peterson, Connor Arroyo, Carna Verde, Josiah Wester, Martha Salinas, Mateo Robertson, Diane Russell, and Ruben Michaels, all the fine people who work on this program. And thank you for being part of our show. And get out there, get active, tag you're it. Have a wonderful weekend, and I'll catch up with you on Monday.
You've been listening to Thom Hartmann. For audio and video archives, visit thomhartmann.com.